Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another episode of the podcast. I'm your co-host M2 Dave, and as always, I'm here with my other co-host MK Rio. We also have King Junior back, aka Burrito Voorhees. Tom is unavailable. So hey, say hi, guys.
Welcome, everybody.
What's up? What's up?
This is episode 39, and today we're joined with a special guest that goes by the name Roy Arkon, who is a reptile player. And Roy, can you tell us about yourself?
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Roy Arkon. I have been a member of this community for quite a while. Also been a moderator on the website, long-term website Mortal Kombat Secrets for a while. And I've been, just like Rio said, I've been a fan of Reptile for a long time, main him in MK9, MKX, MK11, I'm sorry, MK11, MK1, even back in the 3D games, Dead Alliance and Armageddon. And I'm here to join in the podcast with you guys to talk about MK1 and so many other stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's great to have you. So let's talk about, because I saw you even, I see some of your comments sometimes, and I see you get into arguments with a few people regarding people don't feel that MK12 is as balanced and that there's issues and the character balance isn't what people make it seem. You know how people say it's balanced. What is your opinion on that? Because I see you talking a lot about that in the comments, usually with other members.
Okay. So first of all, just a very quick about the balance thing. There is no fighting game that is perfectly balanced. Like, there's always going to be some balance here and there. Like, if you're looking for a game that is perfectly balanced, it doesn't exist, even in today's standards. But I do get into, yes, I do get into arguments with people a lot. But here's the thing: I have been in this community long enough to see that there's always this problem of negativity, not just towards MK1, but for basically every Mortal Kombat game, from MK9, MKX, MK11, and now MK1, and even the Injustice games. And not only negativity, but also revisionism. That a game comes out, they give like maybe a month tops to praise the game, and then the game gets a ton of negativity. And then when the next game comes out, they bash that game and then praise that game that they spent years bitching about. And it's not just in the NRS and WB community; it's basically in all fighting games. But with that they with this revisionism thing, but with Mortal Kombat, it's probably the worst because not only they have this revisionism, but no matter how much NRS and WB try to show that they can make the games for everyone, both single player guys, casual players, online players, and competitive players. There's always this entire movement in the FGC to show that no matter what happens with other games as well, MK games are always seem worse than them, which is not true at all. And as someone who is so passionate about Mortal Kombat and fighting games in general, not just Mortal Kombat, I am indeed tending to get into other conversations with other people. And yes, more often than not, it turns into arguments, but I'm trying to stay as professional as I can.
I actually agree with what you're saying. With usually when a new game comes out, the community tends to look at other games in a certain way, and sometimes things get overlooked and they don't get remembered exactly as they were when the game was out. I know recently we've had certain discussions about MK11, and some people feel that the zoning wasn't that good, but I disagree with that. I think the zoning was good for pretty much all versions of the game except for the final patch, which ironically was played the least. Dave, would you like to comment on the whole opinion of what Roy said about regarding the NRS scene and how some games people tend to look fondly of when they forget some of the things of how things actually were?
Well, first of all, I actually agree with the negativity comment. So I'm going to obviously start with that I agree with. There's no question that's 100% true. That's why obviously Tom is not here, so I'm not gonna put him too much on the spot because he can't defend himself. But to act like there's these toxic positivity content creators, it's just laughable. You go to Twitter for like an hour, and please don't, because you don't want to spend too much time on it. I think it can definitely affect your mental health because there's so much negativity about anything, not just obviously fighting games, but we're here to discuss fighting games. So let's go with that. So there's no question that Roy's 100% right about that. Um, Especially, even if a game does something right, it's still being trashed. Like for example, the balance, like I think Tom was saying earlier, nobody watches the game anymore. Like, there's literally a tournament in Brazil going right now. He's over or what 1,000 views. There was a tournament also in Brazil, MK1 tournament. I believe last Wednesday it had more than 1,000 views. So and I'm just going by YouTube. It could even have even more on Twitch. I don't, obviously I didn't add up all the numbers, but however, sometimes negativity is justified. So when I saw a lot of like Roy's posts on Test Your Might. The one thing that I heavily disagree with is like whatever the MK1, the first 6 months or so was a bad game. There's almost no question about that. People didn't like invasions. The balance was way off. The online was essentially unplayable. There was a time like 2-3 months. I mean, it was just disconnecting. You can't have that. Now, to which degree is negativity is justified? For example, they can say, "Hey, M2 Dave, you went too far with MK11. You trashed it too much." I will grab people the point. So we can agree what's appropriate, what isn't, what's professional, and what isn't. I think that's a fine argument. But I would just add that like no question, MK1 deserved the beating that he got its first year. And I support the game. I still play the game. I like the game. And if you guys watched last time, I said MK1 is one of my favorite games. An NRS game of all time. So I think I'm being very, very fair here when I say that.
Yeah,
Okay,
really
can
quick. Sorry, real quick, Roy, before you go. Can I just pick your brain real quick? What do you mean exactly when you say toxic positive content creator? Because I don't ever remember this being a term, at least during MK11. What does that mean exactly? Dave, if you're able to explain.
Asking me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you're
No,
the
it's
one that
just
mentioned
something
it.
Tom. Yeah, it's something Tom came up with. I guess people who are quote unquote shilling the game nonstop and not really talking about the criticism. I mean, I guess there are a couple of people who do that. But when Tom was asked about this topic on Mike's podcast, he really couldn't name any names aside from maybe True Underdog. But now I guess he's friends with True Underdog, so he doesn't think that anymore. Anyway, I think it's a fake topic. I don't think it's a real issue. Again, most people, the first year of MK1's lifespan, they criticize the game, I would say, and they criticize the game very, very heavily, and rightfully so, in my humble opinion.
Okay, I just want to know what that means, and I think there's probably some
okay,
viewers that are
can
going to
I?
watch. Yeah, Roy,
Matt?
go ahead.
Okay, first of all, we talk about the whole toxic positive content creator, so to speak. As someone that spends a lot of time on YouTube, and I've seen pretty much every content creator you can possibly think about in the MK space. Not only there's no toxic positive content creators, but even those a lot of people that were more positive, a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them, once they started to see how being negative on MK1 gives them more views, they started to be more negative themselves just to get more views. Uncaged Games, for example, he's the content creator I used to be a fan of for like nearly a decade, since before MKX came out, and then about early last year, I unsubscribed for him because I saw that in the last several months, from when MK1 was released until like about February of 2024, he became more and more negative on MK1, and you can clearly see that he does that on purpose because he wants to get more views. He understood that being negative on MK1 is good for his channel. So not only are no toxic positive content creators, but some of them have become even more negative because of MK1. That's one thing. Number two, about this whole the whole topic about MK1 being rushed. Trust me, guys, I have seen games that have been rushed on release. from other genres as well, and other fighting games too. And I can 110%, no toxic positivity. I can promise you that MK1 was not rushed. It wasn't. And not only it was not rushed, Street Fighter 6 and Tekken 8, they came with a lot of problems as well. Some problems that they were even bigger than what MK1 had. And the FGC, they tried to shove those problems under the rug to try to impact the positive energy around both Tekken 8 and Street Fighter 6. For example, remember the whole Switch of MK1 thing? Remember that?
I do remember that. You're talking the Nintendo Switch version, right?
Yeah. So guess what? For Street Fighter 6, the Xbox Series version of Street Fighter 6 is also super glitchy. And unlike the Switch 1 version of MK1 that was fixed in order to be more stable, according to people that have SF6 on Xbox, it is still not fixed, even up to this day. And that's just one. There were also a lot of bugs, like the floor escape bug, also the input system bug that causing moves that you don't mean to come out, and it only partially been fixed. Also, Tekken 8 that received needed a day one patch, and according to Steam members that bought Tekken 8 on Steam, even after the day one patch, there were so many issues that Tekken 8 had already from day one. There were so many problems with all three of those games. So if MK1 was quote unquote rushed, it's very safe to say that SF6 and Tekken 8 also very rushed. It just the FGC trying to lower those problems, the awareness of those problems as much as possible, and then every time MK1 does anything, but even remotely look as a problem, they try to make it look like 20 times worse than it actually was, just to then give any reason to shit on the game.
Well, let me follow up. Let me follow up because you said a lot there. Have you ever played Tekken 8 and Street Fighter 6?
I did not. I did not buy Street Fighter 6 or Tekken 8 because even before both of these games launch, I already seen so many issues with the single player content before even they came out. And I'm also a very big guy on single player when it comes to fighting games. So because I've already seen problems then from the showcases and the demos that they show online, I obviously did not want to buy those games already. So I had to kind of look at what the other people shown. And from what I've shown, not only I was right about everything regards both the content and the state, but it was even worse than I can ever possibly imagine about both of those games.
I mean, look, you can make the claim that negativity is off the charts, yet people are making excuses essentially, as to, well, to use your words, they're sweeping stuff under the rug for Tekken 8 and Street Fighter 6. Are you at all familiar what happened with the Season 2 patch for Tekken 8? Like, it's people wanted to boycott the game. The negativity, from my experience of being part of the FGC for 25 years plus, that was the most negative I've ever seen anybody about any game ever. Speaking within the FGC. So I mean, with all due respect, I don't know what you're talking about. Like Street Fighter 6, its issues with the exception that you made, which is I think a good point. Like most of its issues were fixed almost immediately. Like Rashid came out with the tornado move that was like on this. He could put, it was essentially his level 2. You did it like it was on the screen for like 10 seconds. It was something nonsense. Capcom fixed it with essentially within less than a week. Like it was almost immediately fixed. Street Fighter 6's netcode is the standard for fighting games. It's the best I've ever seen. How do I know? I played the game. I don't play it as much anymore because I mostly play MK1 and I have a lot less time now. But those games on release, I mean, we can argue what's rushed and what isn't. I think that point is irrelevant because we don't work for NRS. None of us knows the answer to that question. However, there's almost no doubt that Street Fighter 6 and Tekken 8 upon release were in a much, much, much better state than MK1 was. I don't think that you can even make the opposite argument.
Wait, hold on. Wait, let me say this real quick, Roy. Let me just butt in here. I think what Roy's trying to say is not that these other games don't have issues or they're not getting blown up by their own respective communities. What he's saying is that for some reason within the MK community, whenever MK has issues or problems, people like to pretend that other games are all fine and dandy. There's no issues. You know, people that don't seem to main those other games, but talk about them like, yeah, why can't we be like Tekken or Street Fighter, things like that? The reality is all these modern games have a lot of issues. But this isn't to excuse MK's problems, because take me, for example. I don't care about Street Fighter 6. I don't care about Tekken 8. When I played MK1, I was severely disappointed with how many issues there were at launch. And if someone were to tell me, hey man, but look, other games are having issues too, I literally would not care. Just because Tekken 8 and Street Fighter 6 are having problems, that's not going to make me all of a sudden feel a little bit better that now MK1 is having issues. The problem is
about what Burrito said, yeah, you're right. If there are issues, yeah, they do need to be addressed and they do need to be fixed. But what I'm saying is that SF6 and Tekken 8, both of them had tons of issues that some of them it took them a while to be fixed, and some of them were not even fixed even up to this day. Again, like the whole Xbox port of SF6 thing, and it's not just the MK1 that had issues today, and even for MK1 there were a ton of issues. They were then at launch, but they were fixed super quick also. So it's not that just MK1 was in a much worse state compared to SF6 and Tekken 8, and it's like I said, it's that the reception and the perception that the FBC tried to purposefully implement on everybody's minds just to make MK1 look inferior to Tekken 8 and FF6, even though all of them had issues. And if they treated all of those games equally, there would be not much of an issue. But the fact that they have clear bias against Mortal Kombat games in general, that's what really would the whole stands on it.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it,
I have plenty to say, but I think, yeah. Well, I'll say my piece, and then I want King Jr. to jump in as well because he's been waiting. I wouldn't equalize those two things. Again, it's not a matter of again, the rushing argument aside. Street Fighter 6 was better on release. That's a fact. Like, how do I know? Because I played the online from both games, and it's universally known that one game is superior to the other. That's a fact. You know, forget what you like in fighting games, you know, armor and all that stuff that we usually argue about. Again, it's essentially universally known that Street Fighter 6's netcode is one of the best in the business, if not the best in FGC, you know, in the fighting game history. And MK1's just isn't one of the. There's no negativity that, you know, oh my God, there's a conspiracy. No, there isn't. One game is just better than the other, like, at least in this aspect, right? And if you look at Max, I'm not a huge fan of his, but I think he usually keeps it reasonable. It's like, yeah, I'm going online and I'm looking at this connecting match for like 2 minutes. It's unacceptable. And he's right, it isn't. And again, I support the game. I like the game. I still play the game. It's one of my favorites. But I think you are making connections and, you know, making comparisons when they should not be made.
Okay. Burrito Voorhees, do you want to speak? Because I do want to have a few things to say to Dave here, but I do want to hear what you have to say so far.
Yeah, because Franco, because King Jr. he played. I mean, you played Street Fighter 6 for a little bit, you know, less than I did. What do you think? Like,
so the only thing I really know about the online experience stuff, at least, like I heard Tekken's rank system was kind of scummy. Like I guess you can leave without getting deranked or something like that. And I think the person that would win wouldn't get their points, if I'm not mistaken. I don't really know much about like the problems that Street Fighter 6 had on launch. Like I never heard about the Xbox thing, but I'm also not like as in touch with those games as much as MK, so I might have just missed out on those and just was unaware of them. but unless I'm missing some things, I would say it's fair to say that MK1, excuse my voice crack, MK1 out of the big, like the three big games, like the big three, probably had the worst launch between the three games, and like Street Fighter 6, as far as I know, is like the gold standard for what most modern fighting games should strive towards to be.
Okay, so here's the thing. I know that this is generally a competitive podcast. I understand it, but I do have to say that while you guys talk about the netcode and the online and of those games, and I'm actually going to agree with you that the netcode SF6, that's definitely an excellent thing. That one thing that SF6 does right is the netcode. I will give it that. However, when it comes to a lot of other stuff, MK1 already since launch beats both SF6 and Tekken 8. And like I said, I am much more of a single player guy. And as someone that played single player in fighting games since for most of my life, even, I can confirm to you that when it comes to the single player content, MK1 not only beats SF6, but it's the only fighting game so far that actually take the single player content into the future and moving it forward. Well, all SF6 really did with content is to getting the quantity of modes to match this of NRS/WB games, but when it comes to the quality and the replay value, it's extremely outdated. And if we talk about online, while the netcode is also good, and Frank, you mentioned ranked mode in Tekken 8. I can tell you that in even without playing SF6, SF6 has the worst ranked mode I've ever seen in any fighting game. Because I don't know if you guys know or remember, but SF6 has this system of qualifying matches that when you picking a character for the first time, you can choose whatever rank you feel like you can enter, and then you have to play 10 qualifying matches, and depending on your performance, it will set the game will decide in which rank you go. So you can actually skip multiple ranks. With the highest rank possible you can reach already from the beginning is platinum. And because of this, it created so much inflation in ranked in SF6 already on month run that right now, when we are 2 years for the launch of SF6 Plus, over 50% of the players are just in Master and Platinum, not even Diamond. Just Platinum and Master rank alone already have more than 50% of the players. And this is clearly not how ranked system in a fighting game should work. So the netcode is awesome, yes. The ranked mode is absolute trash.
I think the reasons for the 10 matches, which is true, based on your performance, it will assign you a rank after those matches. I don't see a problem with it. I mean, if essentially if you pick up a new character, let's say, I don't know, you're highly ranked with Luke and you pick up a new character, right? And you obviously know something about the game, right? Why should you be the lowest rank? Like, you obviously know the basics. So, but maybe the basics are not to the extent that you understand the matchups, whatever, right? Because that's more specific, that's more character based. So maybe you're somewhere in between. I mean, I don't know what's the controversy. Why is that bad?
Yeah, but the problem is that everybody can do it. Even if you are only a rookie, like literally a rookie player that only just now getting into fighting games, you can do it, and then you can already be at worst case scenario with gold 5. I have seen players that did buy SF6 and play them, and they did complain about how the rank system works in that game. And I don't want to go too much into SF6 and Tekken 8 because it is a Mortal Kombat podcast. I'm just saying that MK1, yes, it did have obviously some issues at launch, but it did not have the worst launch out of those three, not by a long shot.
I mean, I think the evidence is very, very clear. One of our co-hosts here, he quit the game, and I mean, he could really could speak for himself. So I don't want to put words on his mouth, but I think, and the fact that the game didn't sell as much as it could have is a testament to the game's horrendous, embarrassing performance upon release. It's my
No, no, no. No. Okay, that's another thing about the players and the sales. Okay, here's the thing. I have seen the sales and the performance of players for MK1, and it's actually an excellent sales. Both players wise and sales wise. MK1 is the 11th as we speak right now. MK1 is the 11th most played game on PlayStation 5 across all genres. Not just fighting games, but across all genres. Only other 10 games right now are more played on PS5 than MK1, and none of them are fighting games. Best of 6 and Tekken 8 by comparison, even on Steam, which is their highest ranked player, they are not even on the top 50, top 70 on as far as I remember. But MK1 is in the top 15. And the 6.2 million copies sold that MK1 got so far, those are excellent numbers for MK1. Because you have to remember, and I've seen, and it's not just me saying that, it's Crimson Shadow on TYM said that, other people have said it too. That the sales for MK1 is that MK11 got the sales that it got. Yes, it was an amazing game, sure, but it also had the whole point of COVID-19 that a lot of people were stuck in home. And because the player base for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One was so much bigger than what PS5 and XB1, Xbox Series are now, the combination of all of those of both of these things combined, it increased the sales of MK11 by a mile. MK1 don't release when it's post-COVID or post-COVID break, I should say, and the player base are of both consoles, which are the main platform for NRS games, is much smaller in comparison to the previous generation. So having 6.2 million copies sold in just under 2 years on PS5 and XB1 is an amazing number sale. That's not embarrassing at all. It's actually an amazing sale numbers.
Well, I agree with you again on certain aspect, which is the fact that like the game not being on PS4, and I have talked about this before, definitely hurts its sales. To me, it seems like you're downplaying the massive issues that the game had on release. And here's what I mean by that. Like, the terrible netcode, the terrible balance, all the complaints that people had on release, you kind of make it seem like, people were being negative because they hate MK, because there's some kind of conspiracy going around, like the Force in Star Wars affecting people. I'm sorry, again, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, the game was justifiably trashed because it was bad. Now, if the sales were up to standards, then why did they cancel support for the game when we know, well, not know, but we kind of have it on good terms with the leaker that there was more stuff planned for the game, but it got canceled because Chaos Reigns did not sell up to standards, right? And my suspicion is that the reason they didn't sell is because, I mean, people can you can fool people once or twice, but when you ask them for like $50 more and you didn't deliver on release, people are going to be pissed off, and rightfully so. And I think that's the reason why the game, it depends how you want to phrase it, but I think it underperformed. Granted, it's still very successful, no question. It's still the most sold fighting game, especially within the big three, right? And even including, if you want to include Guilty Gear as well, obviously it's outselling everything. But there's definitely a point that there has to be made about the fact that the game pissed off a lot of people in its first year. And no, not all those people are haters. They're MK fans like me. I enjoyed the game now, and I think the way people talked about the game its first year, with some maybe exceptions, is all justified.
Okay, about the whole Chaos Reigns thing. Okay, the support for the DLC support for MK1 was over, but that's one thing. But we still don't know the real reason why it was over. As far as we don't know, this is what just was planned from the get-go, and that's it. Yes, maybe there were consideration to support the game more, but longer, but that's it. Even Ed Boon said that for MK11, he said that they could have done even more characters than they already gave for MK11 after Kombat Pack 2. They said, no. We thought, okay, maybe it's time to focus on MK1. So for every MK11 got it as well. So it could be very easily, it said that maybe they just thought, okay, maybe we need to just go and focus on Mortal Kombat 13. And as far as the price of Chaos Reigns, you have to take into consideration that MK11 Aftermath also came out with a story and 3 characters. Excuse me, 3 characters all came on in launch. Chaos Reigns came with the story mode that was even longer than the Aftermath MK11 story mode, and also with double the amount of characters, 6 characters, with the 3 coming at launch for Chaos Reigns, and the other come in a gaps of 2 months a piece. So of course the price is going to be a lot higher, because if MK11 Aftermath was $30, so, and then you got an even longer story and double the characters, oh, of course the price is going to be significantly higher. I mean, I don't understand how people can just ignore those facts. And once again, it's the whole point of people just forgetting stuff, or just maybe nostalgia thing, that just forget about stuff. Like how can you not see those obvious factors?
Who cares what the factors are? People didn't think it was worth the money. Who cares what the price is? People thought, no, you fooled me once. The game didn't deliver on release, and now you're asking for more money. Which again, I guess I'm not necessarily speaking for myself. I bought Chaos Reigns. I'm speaking on what many people said at that point about that particular DLC. And again, it doesn't matter what the price is if people feel like the price is justified, that they get their money's worth. But people didn't feel that way. That's why it didn't sell, and that's why that DLC was a disaster.
Yeah,
People
but Dave, come on, Dave, come on. You can feel whatever you want. That's fine. But at the end of the day, there's also actual facts in on the surface. And when those facts are, and you just ignore, and when people ignore facts because of their feelings, then the whole argument just falls apart.
What feeling did I just mention? I just told you I like the game. I have no reason.
I'm talking about you specifically.
Yeah. I'm one of the few people, and I'll let Rio jump in because he's been waiting. I'm one of the few people who still plays the game, who still supports the game. I had, this is my most played. Well, maybe MK9 was more. I don't remember the hours that I had, but this is one of my most played NRS game, if second, if not of all time. So I have no feelings. I'm just telling you what the word of mouth was at that particular time. And again, if people thought that the DLC was worth the money, they would buy it no matter what. But people didn't think that way. That's the point.
But they did buy it. But they did buy it. MK1 would not get the 6.2 million copies if people did not felt that way.
Deals, according to the leaker, who has no reason to lie, has essentially been right about most stuff about the game. He said that more content was planned, but because Chaos Reigns didn't sell up to standards, they canceled the project.
Yeah, but like you said, but like you said, that leaker, Fate Unknown, have been wrong about a few stuff in the past. And what we did, some of the stuff that he said about the DLC didn't came true. We still don't know if everything that he said was true. We needed to wait until what NRS of WB said about why they decided to stop the DLC support, because so far the only official that we ever said is that they just wanted enough time to focus on the next game. That's all we know. So you can. So I'm just telling you that don't take everything that this leaker said and at face value. And trust me, I am not trying to downplay whatever issue there is, but I'm just saying that you guys Okay, not all of you, but most of you over exaggerate about those problems in MK1, and then the one thing that you do downplay are the problems that other games have. That's what I'm saying.
Rio, again, go ahead. You've been waiting for a while. What do you think? Because you're somebody who played the game. You didn't like it. You quit. What did you think of MK1's first year?
Okay, well, my first mistake was being overwhelmingly looking forward to the game. I was like, wow, this is NRS's first time where they have like 4 years to really put out a game. You know, every game before that, they've been putting it out every other year, right? We've had 2 years between MK9, Justice 1, MKX, Justice 2, MK11, so on. But this time, they had extra amount of time. So for whatever reason, I probably took that a little too literal, and I went into thinking that this game was going to be absolutely mind-blowing insane. And I gotta say, when I played the game on launch, I was really disappointed. The gameplay was absolutely horrendous. I mean, the down one shocker from Raid Amanda, the Tanya down one armor, the range, just machine gunning armor, the buzzsaw 50/50 hard blockable party that everybody was doing, the Cyrax where everybody's just doing any convert into a combo or you get pressure. I think the game was laughable. It was, I think, one of the most boring and worst aspects to a game I've played in the beginning, and this says a lot because Injustice and MKX were also pretty bad on launch. But this game, I think because of the combination and how much I was looking forward to it after not playing fighting games for years, because it was a big break before it, I was expecting so much and I was let down very heavily. We got to talk about when it comes to MK12, and it wasn't even just about the gameplay either, it was just the overall package. Like, there was barely any game modes in the game. Even when the online it wasn't working, like there was no 2v2 tag mode, no chess combat, no puzzle combat, no motor combat, no conquest, no crypt. They had all this time to work on the game, and it seems like they did the bare minimum to make sure the game had a lot of stuff that MK usually oozes with. And regarding the online, I mean, I remember in the beginning, I had the game for PC. Maybe the experience for you guys was better on console, but when I was playing on Steam, which is what I bought it for, I couldn't even play people in 1v1 private. I remember trying to invite Detroit and Super Bowl and other people. And after one match in 1v1, during the intros, we would get desynced. And we were like, what is going on here? And we could only play one game every 2 minutes of fighting. It was the most annoying thing ever. And then I believe it was a Super Bowl who found out that he found a workaround. It was we had to do a King of the Hill and invite somebody, and that's how we would have to do 1v1. It was just so awful how it was done. And then the netcode on top of that wasn't that great from the quality it should have been. But really, when it comes down to it, this isn't really about bashing MK12. I think MK12 does do some things good, even though it sounds like I'm not a fan of it. It does actually do some things pretty good, and I'm not saying it's a terrible game. But for them going forward to whatever the next game is, whether it be Injustice 3 or MK13, I feel like they need to take the least amount of things possible from MK12 going, because in my opinion, this game, in terms of the whole package, as a casual and as a competitive player, in all sides, I think this game was a huge letdown for what it could have been.
Okay, Rio, can I say?
Roy, can we just get on? Can we have also King Junior comment? And I promise we will let you talk. King, King Junior, can you comment on your first year experience and what you thought?
Yeah, as a competitor and like a casual, like because I follow the story and the lore, and I play the other game modes that are outside competitive. MK1, I think, has like the least enjoyable like casual game mode of all the NRS games. Like some are straight up gone, and the ones that are present like aren't too fun. Uh, like I can't imagine how much work it would take for like a modern conquest, like for MK, like a deception style conquest into like a modern MK. That would probably take like GTA levels worth of dev time. I don't know, but it would be cool to see again if it can be done eventually. You know, puzzle combat was like my favorite mini game. Motor combat was pretty fun, as silly as it was. Chess combat was cool. It was pretty similar to like the base gameplay, but it had like a chess aspect to it, so it was like different enough in my opinion. Uh, Invasions is like it's too similar to the base gameplay, so it doesn't even really feel like a mini game. but it's also just super annoying sometimes because there's just scenarios where you're literally like you have no control and like it locks away certain rewards that can only be unlocked in invasions and it feels like more of a chore than anything. So it's like not an enjoyable experience for me, in my opinion. Not having crypt was very surprising because it was in MKX and MK11, MK9, and the way that they went like in depth with it in MK11, like a lot of people enjoyed that game mode. Like I didn't enjoy it a lot, but it was good. Like I would say it was pretty good. Other people loved it, and then for that to just be missing was pretty shocking. So, I mean, as a casual, I totally understand why some people might not like this game for the content it has. And the story, like outside of a few characters' story changes, like Baraka, Reptile, I thought like a lot of the story changes were kind of not the best. Like I don't understand why Sub-Zero and Scorpion are brothers, and um, there's like a whole weird scenario now, like who's gonna be the next Sub-Zero or Hanzo Osaki, like he doesn't even exist, like the Scorpion, because Kuai Liang is Scorpion in this game, and behind a Sub-Zero who is now Noob Saibot and Chaos Reign, so who's the next Sub-Zero, so it's like I don't know. And Chaos Reign's story mode was like a downgrade from the base game story, so I feel like that kind of goes into a lot of why the sales were the way that they were, and I think Fate Unknown's like he was correct on everything as far as I know. So I mean, I don't think it's fair to like just completely discredit his like findings as like rumors. Like he's been spot on with everything as far as we know.
Roy, go ahead and comment, please.
Okay. First of all, real quick, Frank, real quick. Hanzo Sashi does exist. He appears in Smoke's ending. And according to Dominic Ciancialo, all endings in arcade mode are canon this time. So Hanzo Sashi does exist. Just pointing it out real quick. That's number one. Number two, I want to comment about what Yurio said about expectations. And yeah, I can understand that you were just enormous expectations for MK1 because of how much time NRS took to make this game compared to previous games. I understand that. But the problem is that taking expectations too far in not only quality but also direction can really ruin your overall enjoyment once you get to this game. Even if none of the issues, or at least a lot of those issues did not exist, you could still very much feel disappointed by them. And I, for one, when I got into MK1, I obviously did have expectations, but I didn't try to get like immense expectations. The only thing that I really got higher than previous MK games was the fact that Reptile got his best version ever, and he's gonna get his own chapter in the story mode. But aside from that, I did not have any expectations that were higher than what I previously had for previous NRS games. And when I did get the game MK1, I can genuinely say that as someone who played Mortal Kombat games since Mortal Kombat 2 in the MS-DOS in the mid-90s, I can genuinely say that Mortal Kombat 1 is one of the best Mortal Kombat games, single-player-wise, ever done. I can genuinely say that.
So here's the
Well,
thing. Can I just
go
say
ahead,
something real
Rio.
quick? So
Yeah,
some of the
of course.
stuff I was expecting and looking forward to, I'd say wasn't too demanding, because one of the things I was thinking for sure that they were going to have this time in MK12 was that we were going to be able to play ranked and training mode while do it, because even games before the current fighting games out, like Tekken 8, Street Fighter 6, games like Street Fighter 5, Tekken 7, and so on, they had things like that. So I already in my head, and maybe you're right, I shouldn't have been expecting this highly and thinking that there were going to be features like this when, we don't know at the end of the day until the game comes out. But I was so sure that we were going to have things like being able to search and rank match while training mode. And when I realized that was not in the game, it just shocked me. I was like, how are basic stuff like this, which are now becoming like essential features of any fighting game that should have them, still not part of
Okay, I can actually comment about that. I can actually comment about that. And here's the thing. And I know that what I'm about to say might trigger you guys. I have to say this, is that I think that when it comes to some competitive oriented features that MK1 did not have compared to previous games, it's really because of the negativity that you guys had to some extent. Because here's the thing, I have seen in MK11 how many people played the Towers of Time in MK11. You because at the bottom of the screen, every time you enter Towers of Time, you could see on a weekly basis how many players played, and I've seen it even in year 3 and 4 that was still thousands, if not even tens of thousands of players. Even in year 3 and 4, people were playing the Towers of Time on in MK11. So now in MK1, obviously they realized, well, the majority of us, of our players, go on and play the Towers of Time, either Towers of Time or Kombat League, but then they barely use the features. When I went to play, check players in the rules, because I didn't want to go back to Kombat League in MK11 for year 3 and 4, I barely could find anybody that was available and had a stable connection for MK11. I barely could find anybody. So at least from my experience, I think it was a kind of relation that, well, players just either go for the story mode, the tower-based modes, or ranked mode. So why should we include the rooms when people at the long run don't really use them? And you can't really say that they don't care about competitive players, because they, in year 2 of before Ghostface came out, they added the replay takeover feature that was never in any other NRS game before. Yes, Tekken 8 had it first, and SF6 also had it also before MK1, but MK1 eventually also got it. So if they could have added rooms like a long time ago, but they still didn't. But they did add that feature. So you have to feel that maybe the reason that they did not add certain features for the entire game's lifespan was because they just realized that, well, people are not going to use them for long. And if people aren't going to use them for long, why should we put money and resources on them? And as far as the single player modes, here's the thing. MK11 at launch had 6 modes that you could pick on for the main menu. Story mode, arcade mode, survival mode, single fight versus mode, Hours of Time, and Combat in the Crypt, sorry. MK1 at launch also had story mode, arcade mode, survival mode, single fight versus mode, and then they had combo trials, which is a mode that we did not see in MK since MK versus DC Universe, and then Invasions, which is essentially a combination of Towers of Time, the Crypt, MK9 Challenge Tower, and the MK Delhi Alliance Conquest mode, all combined into one. The modifiers coming from the Towers of Time, the long maps and with tasks going on coming from MKDA Conquest mode. The chess obviously coming from the Crypt, and the mini games are clearly inspired by the MK9 Challenge Tower mini game. So MK9, like I said, it had so much content already from launch, and they even kept adding more and more and more mini games as we speak. Even as a matter of fact, when I played Invasions yesterday, I've seen another mini game that I don't think I've ever seen in Invasions before, and we are already in season 6 in its second rotation, and they still keep adding more content for even after the DLC support was over. They're still adding more mini games to Invasions in every season. So not only the MK1 has amazing single player, but it might not have the same type of single player content that you guys expected or thought you're gonna have, but they still add a ton of content, and I really enjoyed that content. And regarding the whole mods of chess combat and Mortal Kombat and puzzle combat, look, I love those modes also. Mortal Kombat, I had tons of fun playing it in MK Armageddon, and chess combat in Deception, I also really love that mode. But the thing is that these modes, unlike Invasions and Towers of Time, which I also added on post-launch, you have in these modes you have nothing to grind for. SF6, that game has these modes of extreme battle, which is essentially just a modifier matches like Invasions, and then team battle. And as far as I've seen people that talk about SF6, nobody plays these modes anymore. So, but then people still keep playing Invasions and Towers of Time and Combat League. So, so the MK single player offering is very, and so like I said, it's what you guys have that you have the expectations of not only impossible quality but also just very specific directions that you guys thought we're gonna have, and they clearly did not went there, and unfortunately it went to your disappointment.
Look, Roy, I understand your
one
perspective.
thing-
Wait, hold on. Let me just say this. I understand your perspective, Roy. With some modes aren't the cream of the crop. They shouldn't be priority, right? Like I'm not here saying what would have saved the MK12 Mortar Combat. That's what we need. Even though it would have been cool to have, but I'm not. What I'm saying is we need to have some features like being able to train while play ranked. In my opinion, is not just like some side bonus thing. I think that's like a main component, like very essential, have in any fighting game these days. And this isn't just a Mortal Kombat 12 problem. Even during MK11, and I said this a lot, I even made a couple of videos on it. I was like, why can we not practice mode while searching in Combat League? The biggest flaw of Combat League, aside from the terrible connections and Wi-Fi and all that, which got me to stop buying fighting games on console, is we cannot practice mode while searching. This to me, this is not me like, demanding something too high or out of reach for NRS to, try to go for. I think something like that should become a staple. Like it's something you have to normalize in the fighting game. You need to be able to practice while doing combat, especially a popular mode like Ranked. Ranked is usually one of the most popular modes in any fighting game, if at least not top 3.
Yeah, another thing too is like to make it like a even more like a better example of a staple that hasn't returned is lobbies. Like that was something that was in previous NRS games and even Midway games is lobbies. Like we never seen a ranked mode practice like waiting room before in our game, so that might be, if you want to call it a stretch. Like I don't think it's a stretch at this point, but we never had that, but we've had lobbies before, so I mean they maybe they could be patched in before they really cut the game support off like for good with the patches, maybe. But I feel like it's kind of wishful thinking with how far into to the game's life we're at. Like I don't know why lobbies that should never be excluded or missing from the queue at all. That's just like unacceptable in my opinion.
And also, Roy, this is why obviously I'm not saying, and I argue probably more than you do with people, but this is why you get yourself into these arguments, into trouble online, is because you just literally called certain things impossible expectations and standards. I mean, that's laughable. Dude, I'm trying to play the game online. I'm not trying to disconnect. Like, this is not a competitive feature of the game. It's a very simple, hey, I bought the game. I'm going to go online and try to play some people. Oh, I can't because it's disconnecting. Oh, I can't practice while I'm searching for matches for 5 minutes. Like, this is not acceptable. So to phrase it as, oh my God, these are possible expectations and you guys are being too negative. Yes, we are, for a reason, because people are pissed off. And again, people certainly voted with their wallets and they were very, very upset. Why? Because the game lacked basic functions. We're not talking about Mortal Kombat like Rhea was saying, or even lobbies, whatever, or even training mode. Just basic. I logged online. I want to be able to play a match. The game for 2 months. This was, I believe, a year ago, around this time, if I'm not mistaken, before Christmas. I remember that because, I'm a teacher and I had off. I'm like, I'm just trying to play the game. I couldn't. Like, the game would just disconnect. And to this day, it still has issues, and it's still not up to standards. This is not about being a hater or lover. This is just basically having the same expectations. And by you not having them, you're hurting these games. Because we want these expectations for all fighting games. I don't care if it's Mortal Kombat, or Street Fighter, or Tekken, or Guilty Gear. These are the standards. Watch Rio's video. And I'm going to keep talking about that video until these developers and executives get it. That's the standard. We want all those 5 things that Rio ranted about, and I hope he rants about them again in this episode. That's the standard. That's the expectation. Nothing less. I don't care what the fighting game is.
Okay, Dave. Okay, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but first of all, what Frank said earlier about the lobbies, that's what I also said about a few minutes ago. I said about the lobbies that when back in MK11, in year 3 and year 4, I could not find myself when I went into the lobbies in MK11. Could not find any games because everybody was in it was in Kombat League. So that's what I said earlier, that NRS probably have understood that people are not going to use the public lobbies in the long run. So why did you should invest time into them? That's what I was saying. And about the whole thing about online practice, that's like that's what another thing is that I myself have come to the realization that because that people only use the vast majority of people that buy Mortal Kombat games only go for the long run for only specific mods. NRS and WB have realized that it's not worth it to invest in certain stuff, including like online training, because they know that a lot of people are not gonna use it anyway. Even Tekken 8, in case if you don't remember, Dave, also did not have online practice for its first 8 months. So it's not just MK not having that at launch. Tekken 8 also did not have it. It has it now, but at launch it don't have it either. So I think that because of NRS realize that the majority of people either go for the single player modes or just ranked when it comes to Mortal Kombat games, they realize that there's really not much of a reason to invest in other features. It's not that those features cannot be helpful, it's just that people just don't use them.
Look, Roy, let me say this. What you're saying is pretty much true. During MK11, and this is true, the lobbies did die out pretty quickly, and after a while, people stopped going to them because, like you said, most of the player base was either playing Combat League or they were doing Towers of Time. Now, this isn't because lobbies were bad or anything. This is the reason why that happened, because for whatever reason, NRS thought it was a good idea to lock unlocking things and seasonal rewards behind ranked. Do you know how many threads I saw on Reddit daily of people, casual players that didn't want to play the game competitively, were complaining, like, why do I have to play ranked against other sweaty tryhards and get Elder God to unlock the skin for Katana? This is dumb. There was so many complaining about this. So the reason why you didn't see a lot of people in lobbies wasn't because lobbies as a system is bad. It's just the way NRS went about it. Like in MK11, you should not be locking all the rewards and stuff behind ranked Combat League. What they should have done was to make it so after whatever amount of games of you playing or doing matches, you can unlock things at your pace on whichever mode you want. So if I'm someone that does not care to do Towers of Time or want to do room matches, I just want to play Combat League and get good at the game, then I should have the right to earn and unlock things through Combat League. But at the flip side, other casual players that do not want to play the game competitively and want to play the game casually for fun, they should also have the right to unlock things while playing in lobbies with friends or playing Towers of Time. That's how it should be. The way that they did it in MK11 was way too restrictive, and they kind of forced everybody to play Combat League, which is why, like you said, everybody and their mom was playing Combat League or Towers of Time. No one wanted to play lobbies because you couldn't get anything out of playing lobbies. That's why. So I think NRS went with the data with that, and they were like, look, everyone's just playing Combat League and single-player content. Let's not bring lobbies back. But I think they overlooked why, because of so much of the content and skins and seasonal rewards that were locked behind Combat League. We're forcing people that didn't want to play Combat League, that weren't competitive players. Again, you guys can go back and read all the threads and complaints. It was a ton of them every day. Like, why do I have to play Combat League? I don't want to play this. People are too tryhard. People, it's hard to be. I'm not a competitive player. And that was a huge issue in MK11. And, you know, this is another thing. Hopefully for MK13, they could kind of take a step back and look at the whole scope on a lot of areas in the game, not just competitively, but things like this, like basic stuff like unlocking rewards for the game, and realize that, hey, not everybody wants to grind rank, and not everybody wants to grind Towers of Time. We got to be able to spread the rewards through different modes, because the way people play your game some of them are not playing to be the next Sonic Fox. Some of them are playing for fun or because they enjoy MK or for whatever.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because, like, like I was saying earlier, like, I don't enjoy invasions, but there's skins that are only invasions, and I really don't want to play invasions, but I literally have to get those things.
Yeah, well,
And,
now you can imagine
the
how
vice
much.
versa, like,
Yeah, now you can imagine how much all those casual players in MK11 felt like they had to go play Kombat League against people when they were not competitive players. Like to them, it was just like why.
yeah, so
Okay.
I think that should definitely be addressed, like, in the future games, like, make it, like, multiple ways to unlock the same thing, like, to cater to every kind of player.
Dude, do you imagine if Tekken was like, oh, guess what? We have this new cool skin, but the only way to get it, you better get Tekken God Prime this season. The casual players would be like, what? I have to play ranked and get there just to unlock a skin I like for my favorite character? That'd be too much.
The thing is that in Tekken 9, it's actually kind of the case because a lot of the skins are locked behind the battle pass.
Yeah, but look, Roy, but here's the thing.
Only way
I don't mind there being some exclusive skins you can get if you get Elder God or whatever, or if you do a Tower Time thing. But when most of the content that's getting pushed out for the game is behind Kombat League, like it was from K11, every new Kombat League season, it was constant skins. You got to get Elder God, you got to get Elder God for this. That's where it becomes bad when you're forcing people to continually do that. I don't mind there being like exclusive rare skins you can get optionally if you do get Elder God or whatever. That's okay to have. But when you make it the main way of unlocking the game, I think that forces the hand on way too many people that don't want to be doing.
Okay. So yeah, about that. Yes, some of the skins are indeed locked behind just Combat League or Invasions. But in MK1 specifically, I'm not going to talk about MK11 right now. But in MK1, a huge amount of the skins are also not exclusive just to Combat League and Invasions or Towers of Time. You can unlock stuff by just playing play even casual matches and getting the character mastery and getting the skins from the character mastery of whatever character you play. And then in whatever you play, either Combat League or Invasions, and you don't reach a certain amount, you can still get gold coins and seasonal coins, which then you can spend in the seasonal store and the shrine, and then getting more skins and other stuff from those places too. It's not just that you have to just for Invasions and Combat League, and you just have to reach specific ranks to get cosmetics or reach a certain chest in Invasions to or complete a specific tower in a specific time to get that skin. No, MK1 actually gives you, at least compared to MK11, it gives you a lot more freedom. In MK11, yes, a lot of the skins were attached to the Towers of Time and the Crypt, which, by the way, the Crypt in MK11 had the diminishing returns, which is that's something I really did not like in MK11 in Crypt, which is why which is they fixed in MK1 Invasions, which I'm really grateful for. But yeah, in MK1, it's not just in the long run, that's what you do. Invasions and Tower of Time and Combat League, but it's not just those modes. It's the shrine, it's the seasonal store, and it's the character mastery. And you still can unlock a lot of stuff just from those three alone. And you don't have to play, or at least you don't have to reach a specific moment in those modes to unlock stuff.
Yeah, my point more so wasn't that they did the same thing with MK11. My point is one of the reasons why they didn't bring lobbies back is because what you mentioned earlier is they looked at the numbers and they were like, look, everybody's playing Combat League and Towers of Time, whatever. We don't really have to bring back lobbies. But they didn't really ask themselves, why are people playing these modes and not really using lobbies? It's because the way MK11 worked, the whole having to unlock skins every other month, and that's why people geared towards that.
If I remember correctly, those the skins that were in the MK1 story mode, where like Johnny, Raiden, and Kung Lao were in like the Kung Fu or whatever, the monk gi or whatever. If I remember correctly, as far as I know, and those were locked away in the seasonal towers, and you had to get to like level 80 on them. And that seasonal tower nonsense is one of my least favorite things, like in Invasions. And as far as I know, they didn't make any of those skins accessible outside of seasonal towers, and there's 80. You have to play 80 different levels of seasonal towers, and every tower is like 7 to 10 matches, and it's just so like when you get to like the 20s or 30s or something or 40s, it starts getting ridiculous. And there were some skins I just literally gave up on grinding for because it was just such like it's just not enjoyable.
Well, let me go back and assess the bigger picture. Um, and I think the problem here is that, and I don't think Roy's being malicious. So I'm actually glad he's on the podcast because when you're typing on social media, things get out of hand, and you don't really get to know the person and how they're actually feeling. I think it's okay to assume that a lot of people are negative on social media because of, for the sake of negativity and for the sake of creating content. There's absolutely no doubt about that. However, there are fans who actually just want the game to be better. There are fans who just want the game to improve. There are fans who just want to enjoy it a little bit more if certain criteria were met. And I think you are dismissing those people as negative, as haters, which is not right. In my case, I'll speak for myself. I just want the online to be better. I already played the game. I'm not a hater. I just want the game to be better. And I think, considering that this game is called Mortal Kombat, has the name, has the prestige that comes with it, this game, without a question, should be better in terms of the netcode. And I think a lot of people will tell you the same. And they're not negative. Another, I'll go back to Max real quick. It's like, dude, I'm just sick and tired of looking at this connecting a match screen when the grass is greener on the other side, and the other side being Tekken 8 and Street Fighter 6. Again, those games are not perfect with their netcode, but they seem like they did a much better job than NRS, at least in this game, did. And I think that's what some people are saying.
Okay, Dave. First of all, a little thing. I think you kind of confusing matchmaking and netcode, because netcode and matchmaking, it seems that your problem with MK1 compared to the online of Tekken 8 and SF6 is the matchmaking, not the netcode itself. I mean, yeah, you mentioned the netcode, but at least in this last sentence that you talked about, what you described is not the netcode. What you described is the matchmaking. I, for one, but even though I did not get to play Kombat League as much in MK1 compared to MK11 and MKX, even in that ranked mode or Injustice 2, when I did get to Kombat League, I actually did not have that much of time waiting in matchmaking, for me at least. I didn't. So maybe it's just your personal experience. I can't really explain it, but at least for me, I did not have much of a problem to wait. And the next code itself, every time I did get to play matches, my connection was my net. I never had a problem with laggy matches, at least not from the matches that I got to play. I mean, I did get the disconnection problem that was back in season 3 of Invasion. I did get that problem once, but that's really it. So again, but it's just maybe just a personal experience thing. But I, for one, did not have a problem with either the netcode or the matchmaking in MK1.
It's the process, right? Because when you play Street Fighter 6 online, it's literally like everything is like happening so quick. Like you find a match, you go into the battle, it's like a matter of seconds. In Mortal Kombat 1, it just takes a while. And no, I'm not one of those people who's like, that's because nobody's playing the game, you idiot. No, people are playing the game, like you said. That's a fact. So I'm not on that side, right? I'm just saying that the overall experience online, especially when it comes to finding a match, again, people are playing. It's not a matter of there's a lack of players. It's just the fact that the infrastructure of the online is just not very good. It takes way too long. Connecting a match, then sometimes it just like disconnects you, like takes you back to the online menu for I don't know what reason. That happens. not regularly, but happens sometimes. When I play Tekken 8, when I play Street Fighter 6, that stuff just doesn't happen. And by the way, you're doing this as you cannot train, like, online, as Rio keeps mentioning. So to me, the experience is not up to standards for a Mortal Kombat game. And I don't speak on behalf of most people who like this game or gave it a shot. I think that's what most people would say. It's not up to standard, and that's why a lot of people quit, and that's why Chaos Reigns was undersold. But let me ask you about this. Let me ask you about this, if I may, because we have talked a lot about single player content, and maybe we'll on this next topic. Then when I wrap up the podcast on, because I'm curious what you have to say. I'm curious about the gameplay elements and how you feel about them. I'm speaking of the cameo system, the wake up system, armor, up block, and stuff like that. Because you came here because you want to talk about balance, and I think so far we've been talking about anything but balance. So we're talking about the other features, which is fine. I want to get your opinion on those on the again the gameplay elements. How you feel?
Okay, three things. One, real quick, I wanted to talk about the gameplay and not just the balance, just to let you know. That's
Yeah, fair
number
enough.
one. Number two, before I go into the talk about the cameo system, which I do want to talk about, when you say that the online structure of MK1 is not up to standards with SF6 and Tekken 8, I can tell you that the single player content of MK1 is definitely the standard right now for fighting games, and SF6 and Tekken 8 are way outdated compared to MK1. They are not the standard. MK1 is. So you may argue that the online experience of MK1 maybe not be the standard. I can genuinely confirm to you say that MK1 single player content is the standard right now. And that's why it is not underperforming. It is actually super performing super well, and it is why it is the best-selling Mortal Kombat game, the best-selling fighting game right now on the market. As for the cameo system, well, here's the thing. Like I said, I've played a lot of fighting games in my life. In fact, Marvel vs. Capcom is my second favorite fighting game series, only behind Mortal Kombat. I'm a huge fan, and I also play Dragon Ball Fighters. So, as someone that played six fighting games before, I can genuinely say that in addition of nailing the single player in MK1, I think that NRS, the cameo system, the assist system in that game is one of the best assist systems ever done. Because the thing is that the cameo system in MK1 is essentially a combination of the variation system from MKX and MK11 with the assist systems from the single player modes and the multiverse mode in Injustice 2 and the MK11 Towers of Time combined into one. The two, because if you don't guys remember, Injustice 2 multiverse mode and MK11 Towers of Time, they had assists in them too. So what they did is they took those assists from those modes in both of those games and the variation system and combined them into one. That's what a cameo system is. And the thing, and as someone that did get to play, as a matter of fact, I did buy the Marvel vs. Capcom collection, which came out just a year ago. I bought that game and I went through all of the Marvel vs. Capcom games, including Marvel 2. And I've seen and I did play the games, like revisit all of those games, and it just showed me even further. And also when I played Dragon Ball Fighters back in the day, when even though MVC2 and DBFZ are 3-on-3 fighting games, and all of the characters are supposed to be equally important to the team, a lot of times the characters are chosen just for their assist and nothing more. Like one of the most popular teams in MVC2 is MSP, Magneto, Psylocke, Storm. And then Psylocke is chosen just for the assist, her assist, I should say, while Magneto and Storm are the stars of the show. Or like when in the early days of Dragon Ball Fighters, I for one cannot remember a time in the early days of DBFZ that somebody picked Super Saiyan Vegeta and it was not for its key blast assist. I cannot even remember a single one. So it felt like, wait a minute, do I play a 3-on-3 fighting game, or do I play MVC1 with just a much bigger roster? It just really did not feel like it, and that's what I really feeling that a lot of times now people just want to get 3-on-3 fighting games with assists and all, but a lot of times in those games, people the characters are now chosen just for their assists and nothing more. MK1 basically already tells you from the start, okay, these characters are going to be just assists, and these are the main characters that you can choose from. Just like in Marvel vs. Capcom 1, which came before MVC2, that you could pick 2 characters and then 1 character as assist only character. And that's why I really much prefer MVC1 and MK1 over MVC2 and DBFZ and the MVC3 because of the honesty. The level of honesty the MK1 comes with you. And the crazy part is that MK1 actually gives you even more freedom compared to MVC2 and DBFZ because you can choose if you want either your main character to be the star of the show or the cameo to be the star of the show. I, for one, picked Reptile, and I chose Sector Cameo to be my cameo because I'm a zoning player. And while Reptile is in MK1 is a mid-range zoner, he can change his gameplay to be either close range like Rushdown or a long range zoner, depending on which cameo you choose. And Sector Cameo is the best cameo in the game, the best zoning cameo in the game, I should say. So I chose Sector to be my cameo so that I can have Reptile and play the gameplay in the way I want to play. And to further even further, I don't know guys if you know, but there is another fighting game coming up very soon called Marvel Token Fighting Souls on Arc System Works. And they actually copied elements not only from the cameo system from MK1, but also from Injustice. The way you can choose, I did not get to the beta of Marvel Token, but from what I see from gameplay of Marvel Token, they allow you to choose, even though it's a 4-on-4 fighting game, you can choose how many characters you want to be the star of the show and how many characters you want to be Justice, and you can also decide which ones. So Arc System Works clearly take ideas from NRS and MK1. And that's shows to me even further how amazing the camera system is in Mortal Kombat 1. I know it was a long answer, but I really have to say all of that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, let me just say that I kind of partially agree with you. I do think the cameo system has kind of grown on me a little bit as I keep playing the game. Again, the problem was that on release, the cameo system was complete trash because you had like 2 cameos who dominated everything, and then the others were so pathetically weak that didn't do anything. But obviously, this is something that I feel like the community did not give them enough props on, is because they have made improvements. They added new moves that they gave them, right? They readjusted frame data. They readjusted, like their attacks. So nothing but props on that side. However, do I want to see the cameo system in the next game? Hell no, I don't. Like, I want a traditional one-on-one fighting game like MK9 with no variations, no stupid gimmicks. Let the characters be the characters. But now Rio probably is more on stuff on the sake because he's more passionate about this topic, than I am. Rio, go ahead and jump in, please.
Okay, I'm glad we got to the gameplay stuff because I feel like we were talking a lot of other areas of the game for most of the episode. But now that we're here, I'm going to say this since we're talking about cameos. Look, when it comes to the NRS games, and I played them all, I think the worst idea that they have ever done came from MKX when they decided to create this mechanic with the whole choose your customs and variations. That, in my opinion, was the worst idea. And what I don't understand is how we're here, like 4 games later, and we still have remnants of that terrible idea from MKX. I never want to see the cameo system again. I'm not a fan of this whole choose a piece of your character, choose a cameo. you want to see Shao Kahn walk up and freeze you with Sub-Zero? Do you want to see Melina approach you, but there's a low head on screen, so now she can do hard? I'm not a fan of any of that. In my opinion, if they do want to have this stuff, and it's fine, I'm not saying it's bad, I just really don't like it. What they should do for MK13 is do it like they did for MK9. You want to have crazy, wacky modes like this, then okay, make a 2v2 tag mode, or make a cameo mode, or an assist mode, or custom mode, whatever, and you could do all that stuff there. But to have it be the main appeal of the game, and make it so everybody has to play it, and this is the main way to play the game, definitely not a fan of it. I think it was executed really bad. So regarding cameos, I mean, there's just a lot I'm not a fan of in MK12. And before I get into this stuff, I want to ask Roy, because now I'm curious, is there anything you don't enjoy about MK12 regarding gameplay? Any mechanics you don't like, or things you're not a fan of, or things you don't want to see return?
Gameplay wise, no, there's nothing that I'm really really against it when it comes to the gameplay stuff. No.
There's not one thing you don't enjoy or don't like that you don't want to see come back from MK13, or you want to see MK13 made in a different way?
No. For example, like in MK11, I wasn't the most fan of the breakaway system because of the way, how the breakaway system works. Like, I didn't hate it as much as other people hated it. But because my problem with the breakaway in MK11 was that you could have press the block button by accident when you jump, and then you still get the breakaway by accident. Or I also did not like how in MKX, I didn't like how certain characters were relying on the dash, the run cancels from up close, which is I was so glad that why Reptile did not need to rely on that, because if we did, that would have been bad for me. But as someone that plays Reptile, but in MK1, I honestly cannot think of a single mechanic that I don't like in MK1. No.
Okay, well, that's surprising because there's multiple things I don't like about MK12. And maybe Franco or Dave, you guys want to chime in on any of this stuff before I guess, share my opinion?
Well, Franco, you go ahead and first now. How do you feel about the cameo system? Would you like to see it back? Has it grown on you a little bit like on me? Where do you stand?
Yeah, I like the idea of the cameo system, and early game it was really weak. Like a lot of the I still think a lot of cameos could use some buffs, like even to this day, but it was even worse on launch. But I like the idea of it because we're probably never going to see Motaro in a roster, like a base roster ever, because mocapping Motaro would just be impossible. Nobody out there, as far as I know, is shaped like a centaur. So
Unless you're trying to do Armageddon Boys Part 2, please don't bring that back. Don't bring Motaro
yeah,
back.
no, don't do that. Don't do the bipedal Motaro.
Yeah, that was a disgrace.
So like stuff like that's kind of cool. Like the lesser known characters, or like the more odd shaped characters, can be brought into like a cameo game kind of for that reason. But I would rather, like, if I have the power to make the game myself, I would rather just have a long move list like we had in MK9, fully fledged out characters, no gimmicks, just the stuff that MK used to be known for. Yeah, no variations or customs. That's just like my preferred way to play MK. And if we're just talking cameos, then yeah, that'd be my answer to that. But I also like my breakers. I like the flawless block. Whether poke should be punishable on like down ones, I don't know. I'm like 50-50 on that, but yeah, just to name a few of those, I guess.
Yeah, I also like the way that they redesigned the flawless block and kind of made it into like an anti-chip tool essentially, and that stops you from building meter. I like that. I'm also a fan of up block. Again, not saying it's the perfect way to make anti-airs, but I do enjoy it, and I think in certain ways it's also, in some ways it's obviously it's worse than like a jab anti-air in MK9. In other ways it's better, right? Because sometimes you get more reward because you get a full combo, and obviously whereas it with an anti-air jab like the NDA, right? So maybe you can't do your best combo. I think the wake up system okay, but I do think they have to kind of increase the active frames of certain attacks. So, like the wake up buttons that Franco, usually criticizes. I think it's due to not because of necessarily because of the invincibility frames, though that could be, part of the issues. Because I'm in practice mode, I don't know, like right now doing, I don't know, Quan Chi's, let's say down 3, it has 2 active frames. In Street Fighter, those active frames would be a lot longer, so it's a lot easier for you to melee, so you would, it would be easier to deal with wake up buttons. So if, that's something I think maybe they can look into. But I actually tend to side with Roy on this one. Most mechanics in this game I do enjoy. I like the armor. I like the invincibility on Wake Up with cameos. That's something that they added to make defense better. I love that because I think the game kind of punishes you for playing too defensively and for zoning. And I would like to see more of that if possible. Again, I'm a fan of pretty much all the mechanics except the cameo system. I don't think needs to return. I think they can do a better job of making the game one-on-one like MK9 without any of the gimmicks and, give us quote-unquote complete, fleshed out characters with as many moves as balance permits, and I think the game would even be in a better state.
Yeah, I
Okay,
think I forgot to mention a few things too. Like I like the air combos. Air combat's pretty
Yeah.
cool. I like how the game
yeah,
doesn't have.
I also love the fact they brought Air Combat back from MK Armageddon is my personal favorite 3D era MK game. So the fact that they brought the Air Combat from MK Armageddon, I really like that. Really did.
Yeah, my favorite 3D game was Deception, but yeah, Air Combat was really cool. I liked it. It helps the combos be more like flashy and stuff. But like, I'm also happy that this game doesn't have interactables. I prefer our games not to have interactables. They can be cool at times, but it's just another annoying thing that they have to work to balance because in previous games they were problematic.
Funny that you mentioned that because I actually was in MKX and MK11. I really liked the interactables. In fact, they were actually a big part of my time playing with MKX and MK11, and also in Justice games with interactables. But that's just me. That's just me.
Well,
Yeah,
let me
like Dave
say,
said,
yeah,
the reversals and the cameo reversals, like those are good additions as well and stuff like that.
yeah, let me
But Dave, I actually want to ask you something, if you don't mind. You talk about the zoning in MK1, and as a zoning player myself, that has, like I said, I have Sector cameo as my cameo, and this is why I chose it for Reptile. I want to ask you, have you used Sector cameo in online play in MK1?
yeah, I use them with Kung Lao.
Kung Lao. Well, here's the thing. I don't know if you know because I kind of mentioned briefly on TYM when I used to be there. But the thing is about Insecto is that one of the reason why another reason I chose Secto is that not only he's an amazing zoning cameo, he can actually destroy other anti-zoning tools that characters can have. I have shown that like way back in the season 3 of Invasions, when I made a video about it on my channel, on how Sector the teleport punch, it can really destroy other anti-zoning tools. Like if you use Sub-Zero cameo, Ice Armor, or if you use like Omni-Man's Vulture stance or Peacemaker as a Force Sphere, whatever it's called, or the purple glow from a Chameleon cameo. The Sector has a teleport punch that it's not a projectile and it's still a move that can appear anywhere on the screen. Yes, it's a summon cameo move, but it tracks the opponent anywhere on the screen. So the opponent thinks that he can just ignore all of your projectiles and all that, but yet you can now have a counter to his counter. And that's why another reason why I love Sector cameo so much. So I'm just saying that if anyone thinks that zoning is not strong in MK1, they definitely should use Sector cameo, and they definitely need to incorporate the teleport punch, not as a combo starter or combo extender. They can if they want to, obviously, but I think they need to also use the teleport punch as a zoning tool too. because of how it works and how it can work against other anti-zoning tools in MK1.
I agree with you, and it's actually something that very recently I've been mentioning to Kung Lao players on Test Your Might, right? Uh, how they can, pretty much, not to reiterate what you have just said, but you can use a teleport punch against a lot of these anti-zoning tools. But ironically, that's not why I think zoning is limited, and MK has nothing to do with anti-zoning. It has to do with the fact that offense is a lot stronger, and it's stronger by design. So nobody's going to convince me that something like Cyrex's Vortex, she can literally kill you. I mean, everybody, if you've watched Sonic Fox play, you know what I'm talking about, or Homelander, the way they play, there's nothing like anywhere near as strong as zoning in the game. Now, have they improved some stuff? Have they improved Quan Chi? Yes, they have. They obviously gave Kung Lao his area projectile was essentially kind of like a katana, kind of how katana fans used to be, but obviously weaker. So there's some strong stuff. I think Peacemaker's probably underrated, but I don't think he's anywhere near close to top tier. So I'm not saying like zoning doesn't exist, that zoning is like completely trash. I don't believe that. But I do believe that it's obvious that zoning is not on the same terms. No, by the way, should it be on the same term as like a Cyrex Vortex, Homelander command grabbing you half screen away, or Havoc pressuring you with his 1-1, which is +3, 1-1-2, which is also, like there's. I don't think zoning is up.
Wait. You just said that it's not it's not it doesn't should be. So you actually said it's a good thing or it's a bad thing? I don't get it.
No, I don't think zoning should be on the same terms as offense in this game. However, that doesn't mean that I agree with the balance right now in terms of how much stronger offense is than zoning. So what I did like, which I've already mentioned, is the stuff that they added. Again, it's not necessarily zoning; it's also defense, right? Like I like, for example, Darius's wake up. I like that Frost has an invincible wake up. They increased the invincibility frames on some of these attacks, which I think is what the game needed, because it was becoming too much hard unblockable fest, especially if you watch like Cyrax, and then they buffed like Reiko to be like a really strong command grab character, which is fine. But like that also kind of made defense weaker, because now we have another command grab character who's throwing us for like 40%, etc. So I do think they're on the right track with the recent patch. Are we gonna see more? I don't know, but I would see zoning be better. Like I would see like more. I would like to see a couple more buffs for like Peacemaker, a couple more buffs so for Quan Chi. Not like anything drastic, because I don't want to like offset the natural balance between offense and zoning, but would like to see a little bit more. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, it's better now than it used to be.
Okay, so the thing is that I've followed MK1, and from what I've seen, the zoning is in MK1 is definitely, yeah, obviously the rushdown is always going to be stronger in zoning, unless the game's in Injustice, because of how Injustice works. But as far as any fighting game, rushdown is always going to be stronger than zoning, like on overall scale. But the zoning in MK1, even from the very beginning, and I have seen this, people have won matches with zoning and won tournaments with zoning, not just now recently. I've seen people playing zoning and win matches with zoning, both online and also in a tournament. I still remember the grand finals of one of the Colosseum tournaments for MK1, when it was the Mighty Unjust and another player. I can't remember who it was, but they both picked Rain and Noob Saibot. And as soon as the set started, they both went full screen and started to zone each other from full screen with projectiles. So, and of course, we've seen how Sector, especially recently, got results and such. So, I really don't think that it's true that zoning is significantly weaker than rushdown in MK1. Yeah, the rushdown overall is easier, but it's not as stronger. It's not, the gap is not that good, and I really think it's true not just right now, but also from the very beginning.
Well, I have a lot to comment on that, but I'm going to have Rio talk, because I know the Rio wants to approach it from a more general perspective. I will say this, and it kind of goes a lot with Rio's point. I do think the movement needs to be a lot faster. So do the moves, resulting in a more like interactive experience. The only in the previous episode, I didn't speak against the movement. I'm just saying if you're gonna have strong movement, then you also need to have stronger zoning. Because just imagine like fighting Hishq in this movement, like he would blow up the whole cast, right? But since obviously MKX is a run button, that zoning is acceptable. I'm just saying there has to be a balance between the two. That's what I was trying to say, like last episode. But Ria, go ahead. I know you've been waiting for a while and you have stuff to say.
Let me say this. Wow, I was not expecting to be the only person here in this call that has many issues with MK12, that also doesn't like the game. But, well, I guess here we go. So, look, in my opinion, this game, there's a lot. We already talked about the cameo issues, but the game speed, the movement, the fatal blows, the up block, the floss block, the breakers, the armor, even the air combat, honestly. Like, this game has so many things I don't like, or that I think they mis-executed in doing it well. That, like, I look, I don't want to sound like a hater. I'm just trying to be real
No,
here
I
and
think
give
you
you
should
guys my
say
honest
how you
opinion.
feel, man.
But
Like
I really
you
hope
should say,
MK13 does not have. I hope it just does not play like MK12. Like, it needs to be a new game from the ground up, because there's too many things in MK12 that for fighting into excel in, I think this really is not it. They gotta really go back to the drawing board and start from scratch and work on the basics, the foundation, and then they can start adding stuff to it.
can you? I know we kind of already touched upon this the last episode, but I think for people who might not have watched it and are watching this one, can you talk about like maybe like 4 or 5 things that are very important to you that you would add in the next MK13 from your perspective, and give us like an overall, maybe a little bit of a comparison how you want this game to play, in
Well,
terms of like something else that you would play.
are we talking about gameplay or things that aren't gameplay related, like online, good
Gameplay now,
content?
yeah, we've already talked about the you know the single player content and the online. I think a lot at this point. Give me the 4 or 5 gameplay aspects that you would like to see and how you want the game to play, or maybe like you want to compare it to something else, a game that you really like, and comparison.
Okay, well, I guess before we get into it, let's first talk about the things that I don't enjoy about MK12. Like, for example, the fatal blows. This should not return. I'm not sure why it's still in the game with how bad it got received in MK11. I don't think there was a single person that I can think of anywhere, from competitive to casual, that liked the fatal blows in MK11. So I'm just very confused as to why they're still in MK12. Like, now, yes, they did nerf them a lot, right? There's no more armor on them, I believe. They have a startup frame with a super animation, so you can see them easier. They could be broken now with breaker and whatever. But the fact that you still get something like this for free just for getting beat up is, I don't think there should be frees handed in a fighting game. They need to go back to having
Can I
extra.
comment about the fatal blows? Can I comment about the fatal blows for a moment?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Here's the thing. I get why people are upset about fatal blows, that competitive players about upset about, but as a more casual player myself, I love the fatal blows, and I would definitely go. And as someone is trying to jump between the more single player oriented and the competitive, I can say that I the fatal blows are way better than the X-rays, because a huge problem that both MK9 and MKX had is that how the because you had to use 3 bars of super meter to get an X-ray, and how the both of the metas for both MK9 and MKX, how meter dependent they were for both of the EX moves and the combo breakers. You barely got to see, if at all, X-rays. I remember that when I played MKX online, I myself can count like maybe, I don't know, maybe 4 times tops that I ever got to use X-ray against my opponent online, in either casual or ranked. So the fact that they now move the fatal blow to be attached to the health bar rather than the meter, that's actually a godsend move by NRS and WB. And here's the thing, I get that it might look on the surface annoying that beat them, and then the fact that now the super move is now a comeback mechanic at the same time. But the thing is that I feel like a lot of people, why they complain about the fatal blows is because of MKX and MK9, they didn't have to deal with X-rays as much. Now they do have to deal with a lot more constantly. Now it just thing of a habit. They had to deal with it, but now they do have it, and now they see, oh, I now have to deal with a move that has, at least for some frames, it has armor and it can deal me 30% unbreakable damage. So yeah, I can understand why competitive players don't like it, but I can tell you, casual fans and single player guys, they love the fatal blows. And compared to X-rays, is such a gigantic improvement. And comparing how we see even in MK11 and MK1 how meter dependent both of those games are, having the fatal blow relying to the health bar instead of the meter is a gigantic positive.
Rio, what do you think?
Okay, look, the reason why you didn't see a lot of X-rays in MK9 and MKX is entirely dependent on what character you're playing. You even said yourself you barely got to use it. That's because Reptile, if I'm assuming that's who you played in MKX, he didn't have one of the greatest X-rays, so him you were not going to see as often. But there's certain characters you play against, whether it be MK9 or MKX, where you will see X-ray a lot because that's one of the best tools. And when the character gets full meter, the way you play against them, their approach has to be different. And
Can you please give me examples of an MKX, please? Can you please give me examples?
For example, when you played against Devora, her X-ray was insane. You had to be ready to get hit by that. Same thing with Katana. Katana, another character. When she had X-ray, get ready because at any moment, she's going to 50-50 you. And by the way, it's also an armor. It was an instant overhead, basically. So if you played against those two characters before, I think everyone's gotten hit by Devora's X-ray and Katana's X-ray.
I think you missed the point. What I was saying about the X-rays in MKX is not because the X-rays themselves were not good. The problem is that the meta in general was so intensive about the usage of meter for EX moves and combo breakers, so you did not get to see that many, not because the X-rays were not good, but because that even for the characters that did have good X-rays, the need to use the meter for EX moves and then later on combo breakers if they were caught in a combo themselves, it was way too crucial for them. So you barely saw X-rays. That I do remember that I saw. I think it was a Scar or Dragon. I don't remember if it's one of those two. That I saw in one tournament, offline tournament. They did. Somebody used Kitana, and yes, he did use X-ray in year 2 of MKX. Definitely throughout the entire top 8. Like 95% of the time, you will not see X-rays at all.
Roy, you're kind of making my point for me. It's not about, I'm not saying they can't balance them so that every character has a devastating X-ray that is worth using and investing, saving some meter for. But what you just said, people are too busy using breakers. In my opinion, breakers are also on the problems that I listed earlier when I said 15 minutes ago. One of the things I don't like about MK12 or MK in general is having breakers. The problem is you have these mechanics. Breaker in a way is just a cop-out. It's not hype to see someone break. In the same way, it's not hype to see someone get hit by a fatal blow. Now, X-ray, on the other hand, when you do see someone get hit by that, sometimes you can actually get, excited for that because it's like, wow, they stayed up, they did it, they pulled it off. Just like you would see in MK9, you would see Kung Lao's doing X-ray or Sub-Zero doing X-ray. And every time that moment happened, it was like, oh shit, they now have, their X-ray. How is the opponent going to play this now? You cannot jump at Kung Lao anymore. And Sub-Zero and MK9, you can never throw a projectile or whiff anything because you're going to get X-rayed in the face. What they could do for MK12 is they can expand us at so much depth. The reason why fatal blows suck as a mechanic is that, first of all, it's not hype to see someone get hit by it because the opponent didn't earn it. They were just given it for losing. That's one. Two, MK12 is already insanely slow. Why do we need more mechanics like forced fatal blows on everybody to make the pace even slower and more miserable? That just makes the game feel even worse. Third of all, for MK13, the reason why X-Ray is so much better than Fatal Blow is that you can even customize it for other modes. Like if they want to bring Fatal Blow back, sure, but have it be something else that's like an option you could turn on for other modes. But to make it be like the main part of the mode that people are going to play this game for money and traveling to, I think having something like that in the game is such a huge letdown. Have something like that be such a part of the game where you have to deal with it every single match you play someone in.
Roy,
Okay.
how do you reply? What's your reply to that?
You asking me?
No, Roy. Roy can
Oh, Roy.
comment.
Oh, I thought
We'll
I-
have you
sorry.
comment. Roy, go ahead.
Okay, listen. I don't have much of an answer for that, but look, I still think definitely that Fatal Blows are talking about the speed of MK1 in general. I actually like the speed of MK1. I definitely like. So I think this, and that's just me because I do prefer slower paced games or fighting games compared to faster games like MKX and MK9. So I do. That's why I also like MK11 gameplay wise compared to MKX and MK9. But so I do definitely MK1 because I think it's definitely balance between MK11 and MK9 and MKX. But as far as the fatal blows, the fact that you don't earn it, like here's the thing. Combat mechanics in general, you don't earn it. And the fact that the fatal blow is now a combination of a super move and a combat mechanic in the same one. Yeah, if you try to compare it as just super moves alone, then it's kind of the whole comic aspect of it. You may seem like out of place, but the thing is that it that's how it works. That's how comic mechanics in general works. And like I said, and I think you also will know that fatal blows are like, let's say, rage arts in Tekken, when you can have one rage art in every round. In Tekken, in Mortal Kombat, you can land fatal blow only once per game, and then once you use it, it's gone. I remember in NK11 when I played I played the Jade and I fought against a collector player in Combat League. He got me with fatal blow, but I still had a pixel of life health, and I managed to take the round without using my fatal blow, and it cost him that other player the entire match and the entire set altogether. So you can't just throw it away. So it's not just like this scrubby mechanic. You have to use it more strategically.
Roy, you mentioned rage arts from Tekken 7. I played Tekken 7. I hated rage arts. I think they were dumb. They didn't make the game better. They were just added because the developers just wanted to add something for the sake of adding something, and it just, in my opinion, did not make Tekken better. Same as I'm not a fan of Ultras or Street Fighter 4. I think stuff like this, where people just get stuff for getting their ass beat because they need a comeback mechanic, is bad. If you want to make a game have a good comeback or something, then invest it into X-rays. So that way, at least the players to invest their meter that they're gaining for getting their ass beat into something. But to just hand it to everybody for free, like a piece of candy that they could use every match when they're getting their ass kicked, is just so bad. Like, it needs to just not return. And I cannot believe that they brought it back from MK11 because it was literally the most hated thing about MK11, and I cannot believe it's still in this game.
No, but the thing is that attaching them to the meter like it was in MKX and MK9 will also be even worse because now, because like I said, because of how meter intensive the metas were for those games, and especially that you bought the exact same meter system from to MK1 after you had the cooldown meter system in MK11, you bought the regular meter system from MK9 and MKX. Having the X-rays again also, that's would be even worse than Fatal. I get what you're saying about
Bro, I get what you're saying. The reason why they made Fatal Blows is because MK11 had the regenerating meter. I get that. But now we don't have that anymore, so there's no need for a Fatal Blow. But the thing is, look, I also understand what you're saying about X-rays. X-rays and MK9 and MKX.
That's the thing here. Because they did brought the meter system back, it's actually the reason why they do have to bring fatal blows. Because if it was like that even if you had the combo breakers to be in 2 bars, just like MKX and MK9, well, again, it will still make the meta way too meter intensive, and now you will never see X-ray unless the X-ray was of a certain character was like that super strong that you had to use it. So
Well, here's
I
the
really
thing. Look, Roy, here's the disconnect. The thing is, with the reason why X-rays and MK9, a lot of them were bad in MKX and MK9. Like, I'm thinking of MKX right now. I can only think of like a few characters off the top of my head, like Devora, Katana, Sonya. But the reason why a lot of them sucked is because the game had severe balance issues with regarding meters. Some characters would have access to one bar move that was an armor attack that could either turn the tides, win you a game, get you a combo, whatever. But then their X-ray was like, what does this do? Okay, for 3 bars, you can do 30% if you hit your opponent with this crappy move. And then that's it, you lose all your bar. The way to make X-rays better is that they're going to have to really invest time. I know this will be harder because in a way, if you think about it, Fatal Blows was almost like the cop-out, the lazy way that they were like, you know what, X-rays are hard to balance because then we have to figure out how to make it work for every character. How do we make it good? How do we make it so their meter is intact with them using 1 bar, but then wanting to save for 3? So what they thought it was like, let's do a Fatal Blow where we don't have to worry about all this stuff with X-ray, and we could just give everybody a free Fatal Blow, and so much easier to balance because everybody gets one for free. The problem is giving games easy mechanics like this makes them worse in the long run. I'd rather play a game that has...
Except, Leo, the fact that other games also using this combat...
Roy, I just told you, I'm not a fan of Rage Art and Tekken 7 or these other games. They're bad. Rage Art and Tekken 8 or Free Come MK, I don't like them. It's not an MK thing only.
No, I get it, but I'm saying that because
but you're saying but Tekken 7 has it too. Yes, but I didn't like that in Tekken 7 either. So why would I like it here?
I understand. Okay, Rio. Okay, wait. Look, I understand that you don't like it. That's what I get it. I'm just saying that because of other games and not just MK1 or MK11 or Tekken 7 or Tekken 8, you also bought Street Fighter 4 and use the Ultra. That's true. SF6 also using their super move. They are separated from the drug system too. They use that too. I'm just saying that because of other games having this hybrid of super move combat mechanic, that it shows, at least to me, that it's not that NRS and WB don't wanna balance because they're lazy. They don't do it because they know it's impossible to balance. I mean, I know that you think it might be possible to balance, but truth to be told, I don't think it's possible to balance. So they have to do that. It's the only option.
No, I understand that it's much easier to bounce Fatal Blow because to make X-rays good for every character in the system, it's going to take a lot of effort. I understand that. But here's the problem, Roy. Seeing someone... Wait, hold on. Let me just say this and I'll let you talk. Seeing someone get hit by a devastating move like this should not make people have to face fall and be like, oh my god, here we go again, Fatal Blow. It should be like when you see Sonya pull off her X-ray and MKX, or you see a Sub-Zero pull off his X-ray and MK9. You should be like, wow, like, oh shit, like this is a good moment for the game, not something where you want to roll your eyes and be like, this is just dumb. That's the problem. This stuff should not be in the game. Makes the game worse.
What I'm saying, it's not that it's going to be a lot harder to balance. I'm saying that it's going to be impossible to balance. And even if it is possible, it's going to be possible in extremely unpractical way. And you're going to have to go into the most minute details in order to do so. So I know that you think that in your head that it might be easier said than done, but it's actually, at least from how I see it, it's going to be next to impossible to do, if not even straight up impossible. So I really think that keep going with Fatal Blows is the way to go.
No, I don't think it's easier said than done at all. I think it's required a lot of effort and something that they're going to have to really think through with every character. And they're going to have to design every character's X-ray to be a certain way to fit their style. Like, for example, Kung Lao's X-ray in MK9 was basically a spin move, but on crack. It means if you jumped anywhere, crossed him up, did anything, and he did his X-ray, it was an instant armor-breaking armored anti-air that gave him a full combo. He got over 50% off it. Things like that. Like, you have to make sure every character has something that is unique to them, that would fit their style, and that is worth doing. And they should also make it so you can combo off all of them. Because now that, you know, like you said, we're going to be needing meter to get combos, meter to breaker, which I hope they don't bring back. You want to make it so when you do an X-ray, it's not just an X-ray and get nothing out of it, right? You got to make it so you at least get a combo, like how a lot of them were in MK9 and some of them in MK.
Wait. This is my opinion. You actually want every character to be able to combo off of their super move? Everybody?
Yes, that's good. Have you never seen Kung Lao do an X-ray in MK9? He got a big combo after it.
I-
Same
I
with
do
Johnny in
remember that
MK9. Same with Liu Kang in
I
MK9. A
do
lot of
remember
characters
that
got
they introduced
combos.
a combo off of the super move with Joker. I do remember that. So, but I really think it will be way too overpowered. If every
No, it's
character
not going to be.
can-
Look, I'm not saying, hey man, if you get hit by this X-ray and use 3 bars, time to eat that 90% stock. No, it needs to be, there needs to be some form of balance, obviously, right? You should maybe lose around 40 to 50 depending on the character and how hard it is to land and whatever. But I'm not saying you land an X-ray, you win the game. Like that would be kind of stupid. But like
Yeah,
the thing
my
is,
thing.
sorry, go ahead, Franco.
You can finish if you want. I'll just go after
No,
you.
go ahead, go ahead.
I was gonna say like that's part of the things like that. Like it does take effort for sure, but that's just part of the process of making these characters. Like I don't want every character to have a fatal blow just because of it's a staple in the game. Like the fatal blow is just given to you for losing. Like I don't like the comeback mechanics either, but every character can have their own specific X-ray startup. Like some maybe could be like a projectile, some might have Oki and might like knock you down, some might launch, some might be parries like Johnny or MKX Sonya. Um, like I don't think it'll be as hard to balance as like Roy you might think, but like it's just another thing I like about X-rays is you can't just keep fishing for them like you can with fatal blows. Like fatal blows regenerate over time if it's unsuccessful, and the full screen fatal blows that exist in MK1, like you can just fish for them, and usually you might be safe or get like a very minor punish that doesn't match the reward that you would have gotten if you would have landed the fatal blow. So like sometimes the risk rewards are skewed. But with X-rays, since they cost resource, like you can maybe make some of them plus unblock, or maybe some of them cancelable, or like there's ways to go about it. And I think obviously the ways to go about it depends on the character you're making it for. Like maybe some can be like a command grab with an anti-air throw option, like Reiko, uh, stuff like that. So I mean, it just depends on the character, and it just gives more variety and uniqueness to the character, in my opinion. And it's just competitively, I think it's just better too.
Yeah, there's literally
But
100 different
Roy, yeah,
ways you can make X-rays. They could be anti-airs, projectiles, teleports. They can even do things like Injustice 1 had some cool supers where Grundy, you would activate super and you become in this state. The whole game slows down. You get this Axis super jump. You're trying to command, like things like that. They can get really creative. That way it feels like a good mechanic that someone earned. When you get hit by it, you're not rolling your eyes and you're like, okay, they worked for this. And then when they miss it, the crowd's like, oh shit, they missed their X-ray. Now there's some cost, invested into this. They lose their bar. Like, instead of fatal blow, we miss it. No one gives a shit because it's like, okay, we'll come back in 10 seconds anyway.
but let me just say this real quick. I think Roy does have a point though. Like the reason you never saw X-rays in MK9 and X, I know Rio's right. It's connected to the meter, right? Why would you use meter move that useless when you can break her and EX moves are better anyway? Um, and I think it would be very difficult to balance because unless it's really good, why would you use it, right? That you would have to have a really good incentive to spend 3 bars, even if it's 40%. Who cares? A regular combo in MK1 is 40%. Why would I spend 40%?
Look, I think you and Roy are overthinking this. The reason why I actually sucked in MK9 and MKX, not because they were super hard to balance and oh my god, we need to hire Einstein to design them. It's because a lot of the X-rays sucked. They had terrible hitboxes, they didn't do much, they were very laggy, and then characters have ridiculous EX moves. Like for example, Ermac. In what world do I ever want to do Ermac's X-ray in MKX? When I could just do a 1-bar safe half-screen armor launcher that heals me, gives me free offense, does like 20 other things? This is the problem. They have to design the game with a little bit more brain power and make sure things make sense. 1-bar attack should not be better than a 3-bar attack in no way, shape, or form. This is why it's better just to make X-Rays combo and have them have armor or whatever, not have single bar attacks be like the combo starter, the armor move, invincibility, like it does all these different things. They just have to figure out how to balance it for every character.
But hold on a second. Like, let's talk about the real reasons fatal blows are disliked. It's because they have armor, and it's because they're essentially reoccurring until they hit.
They're
right?
also given
That's the
for
real reason.
free, and there's no consequence in terms of like
Well,
expending your resources
that's
when using
true.
one. And they're
Well,
also
I mean, it's
long as hell to watch too. On top of that, they're like annoying every
fine
way
to hear
possible.
that. I mean, you either believe in comeback mechanic or you don't. I do. I like them. So, I mean, that's a perspective difference. I do think that
Okay, well, here's what we need to do. We need to give MK13 a chance of being a very good game, okay? This stuff can stay in MK12, but for MK13, we gotta, like, give them a chance to make something better.
well, people like me and Roy, we think MK12 is a very good game.
Well,
So
well,
why
how about
would
you
we-
guys can continue to play MK12 while we all play MK13 that plays nothing like MK12? Like, why is that bad?
no,
If MK13 ends up being bad, then we'll go back to play MK12 do Fatal Blows.
I'm just going to end my end of the my end piece about this particular topic is just two things. You guys, Rio, you said that MKX Reptile his X-ray was not good. Well, he wasn't. His
It was
X-ray
not
wasn't
great.
the best.
It was okay. He's like average.
Yeah, it was okay. No, it wasn't like the greatest X-ray, but it definitely was one of the better ones because he didn't have MKX Reptile X-ray didn't have that many hits in his X-ray, so the combo scaling wasn't that steep compared to other, let's say, Liu Kang's X-ray, for example. So in that department, I actually really liked his X-ray for Reptile, and every time I did land X-ray Reptile, I actually got a pretty good damage from landing like a false ball into standing fall into X-ray 40%. It was actually was very good for me as a Reptile player, and when I did land it. And as far as and finally, my final point about this topic, like Dave said, me and him, we have no problem with combat mechanics. Obviously, you and Frank, you guys have a problem with combat mechanics, and that's completely understandable. I think we should wait to just let's see what NRS and WB do with MK13 in that department. So I will leave it at that.
Roy,
Look,
but I do
look,
think
wait,
that,
hold on. I don't. It's not that I have a problem with comeback mechanics existing. I don't mind them as long as they're done right. When you get them for free, why not make the X-ray the comeback mechanic? But you have to work your way towards it. Like I don't understand.
Because like
No,
you said, it's
go ahead.
it's definitely compared to how X-ray used to be in MKX and MK9. It's definitely much more preferable.
Yes, but they had
That's what
less
I'm-
knowledge back then when they were designing the games. The whole reason why Fatal Blow exists is because one of the reasons back then is it took a lot of effort to make sure every X-ray was good. So they took a new way and being like, well, how about instead of designing a very good specific X-ray for everybody that fits with them, they wanted to take the Fatal Blow route, which is so much easier to manage.
Well, no, it wasn't because it was super hard to make every X-ray to be good. It's because the meta in MKX and MK9 was so meter intuitive because of the super moves and were overly powerful, and the combo breakers were overly used.
Look,
So you
Roy.
had to use.
Roy, I feel like you're ignoring what I said earlier, though. This is all balance issues. Breakers should not cost 2 bars. They honestly shouldn't even be in the game. And again, 1 bar attacks should not be better than 3 bar attacks. These are literally all balance issues that I'm sure with the amount of knowledge that they amass now going into multiple games that they could figure it out for MK13, where they can make X-rays
Wait.
really good and worth using for 3 bars.
So about combo breakers, are you saying that we can get combos in a Mortal Kombat game with combos that can get into 40 or 45% or even maybe 50% if you have the execution, and there's absolutely no way you can break a combo? So how? Every time somebody mentioned land a hit on me, I just need to take it, and there's no circumstance or no scenario in which I can just stop the opponent from landing those.
Yes, I think when you get hit, you need to hold your combo. Here's why this
Well,
is annoying, but
definitely-
here's why this is annoying in the new modern games, because the new modern games are full of these slow, clunky gameplay with these slow-looking combos where it takes like 20 seconds to watch someone finish their combo, which, by the way, was even hard for them to do on top of that, which makes it even more annoying. The problem is, going in the future, they need to make combos have way more depth, way more execution. They need to be quicker, too. If you're going to do a 40% combo, okay, fine. But can you do it in like 5 seconds instead of 20 seconds so we can just get to the point? This is the problem. So if, in a way, it's like an illusion. It makes you feel like you need a combo breaker to play the game. That just means the game and other aspects are just designed badly.
Dude, but okay, having quote unquote slow combos, that's you need to take into account all of the moves that every character does and their animation. This happens in pretty much every fighting game. This is not about the combo breakers and such. How combos in general work. Even if you play quote unquote faster games like the Marvel vs. Capcom games, the combos are also super long. There are no breakers
Yes, but Roy, I'm
in
not a
those
fan of
games.
combos in that game too. I don't like the reason why I never was a fan of tag games like Marvel's Capcom or DBZ Fighters, whatever. I'm not saying they're bad games for people who go like, oh my god, Real doesn't like those games, but because I'm not a fan of sitting there and watching gameplay where you don't interact for literally 20 to 30 seconds. That to me is not an enjoyable fighting game. Like I don't think a fighting game should be like that.
So instead of giving you the option to at least in some instances to stop the combo, so you can get
Because
to the
Roy, this is all band-aid stuff. It's a band-aid.
Roy,
We do not need band-aid mechanics.
No, it's not band-aids. Rio, it's not band-aids. It's not.
Roy, you're literally just saying why it is, though. The reason why you're like, but wait, no combo breaker, then I'm going to have to sit there and watch these own combos and get hit. This is why it's a band-aid, Roy, because now that the band-aid's off, you can see all the problems.
So
You get it now?
Let me give you there's a disconnect here. I talk to Rio all the time. Let me tell you where he's coming from, and I actually agree with you. But let me just tell you so you have a perspective. Rio likes a game like Ultimate MK3, right? Where everything's fast for the most
What
part.
does
The
this
combos
have to
are.
do with Ultimate MK3? I'm not saying MK13 needs to be
Hold
Ultimate
on.
MK3. You just literally
I'm
pulled
not
it out of your
saying.
ass.
I'm just let me give the perspective, please. So the perspective is, like, for example, Rio likes his anti-airs, and that game enters are powerful. So if you get like anti-air, you can essentially die, right? But the combos are short. There's no breaker. It's a fast-paced gameplay. I'm not saying he thinks it's the perfect game, but I'm sure he would tell you that that's probably more
By the
of a
way,
meta
what
that
Dave
he
isn't telling
prefers.
you is the jump-ins are also very strong in UMK3. And you guys are going to find that when Legacy Collection comes out, you guys are going to see how good the jump-ins are. The thing is, in that game, they're both good, the anti-airs and the jump-ins.
I'm not trying to like, oh, he likes Ultimate.
No,
What a
because I
loser.
don't
Like,
want you to make it
just saying-
seem like you're like, hey, Roy, Rio wants MK13 to be like MK3. No, that's actually not what I want.
I think. Well, but I'm sure you would agree.
However,
That's
I will
more of a
say
game
this,
that-
since you did bring up UMK3, I will say this. Ermac's long combos in that game that do like 40%, you can do them in like 8 seconds. They're pretty quick to the
that's what I'm-
point. And they
I'm not
also
saying, like, oh
require
my God.
execution, and they're fast and they're very interactive, but they're quick. My point is, I don't see a need for 20 to 30-second long combos in a fighting game. A fighting game should be about players interacting with each other, fighting each other, not you sitting there taking turns watching someone do something like a cutscene equivalent. That is just not enjoyable game.
No, I
I think fighting
understand.
games not
Wait,
meant to not
I'm
be like
not
that.
trying to. I wasn't
Wait,
trying to
wait.
blow you up. Rio, hold on, please. Roy,
Guys,
let me
wait.
finish the point.
Can I say something? You guys talk about how long time-wise the combos take in UMK3 versus MK1 or MK11
No,
or MKX.
my point wasn't even UMK3. My point was in general. I'm saying like in general, combos should not be taking longer than like 10 seconds in a fighting game. That's to the point where it's getting like boring and dull, especially when you see the same BNB every round. When you get hit by someone doing something as simple as Scorpion, 4-3-2, 4-3-2, 4. It's just like that stuff needs to go.
Okay, here's the thing. I myself, trust me, I was getting hit by combos in MKX a ton, or in I myself got hit on. And yeah, by exaggeration, you can say, oh, that combo, if you're getting hit by combos too many times, yeah, they feel like they take like 30 seconds or even 1 full minute. But in actuality, they know they take like combos like taking like 10 seconds, even with all of the how many extensions combos get, they don't take more than 10 seconds every combo even in MKX, but how combo intuitive that game was. So I don't think that combos are too long, and this is why we should get rid of combo breakers. No, I think, Rio, that you are exaggerating way too much on that part. I really do.
Dude, I was literally watching Evo Top 8 for MK12, and I can't tell you how many times I saw Sonic Fox getting someone's socks, and it was like I was watching an hour segment of someone doing like a combo video while someone's getting hit, and then they have to guess again. My point is, all these issues stems from the speed of the game. When the whole speed of the game feels slow, it's gonna drip into the combo system as well.
You're confusing set play with combos. It's not the same thing, dude. It's not the same thing.
Roy, my point is, for MK13, the combos need to be more fluid and quick. They take too long.
Well, I think
Okay.
also, Roy, I think
And
it's
Sarx
also
is just
a
one example, by the
necessity,
way.
right?
There's a lot more characters that have longer combos too.
Well, I think the reason why it combos along in MK12 because it's an assist game, right? You should do a string, it connects, you call an assist, then you combo afterwards. Like obviously it's just the way the game works.
Well,
And
let
by the
me
way,
just
just to make
say,
sure,
wait, hold on. I don't want to, but just because Roy says I'm like exaggerating, bro. I remember literally when I was playing in the first couple months with Detroit Ballin, he was playing a character like Shang, and I would get hit by him and literally have to watch 20-second combos. I'm not even joking. He would launch me, do cameo, whatever. Then far skull, medium skull, close, far, medium,
in
far.
MK1,
Like
he can. Yeah, Shang Tsung in MK1 specifically, yes, he can then get long combos that are like insanely long.
yeah,
but
but
he's
the
like
point is the stuff like that is also
rule.
easy to do. It's like the worst in both worlds. They're long as hell for no reason. They don't even do much damage to for them to be that long, and then they're also easy to do on top of that. It's just like
actually they're not. Shang Tsung is one of the most difficult characters in that game to
Detroit
play.
literally
Anybody
told me after he learned these 30-second combos in the first day of the game we were playing. I was like, "How hard is this Detroit?" He told me it's so easy. And I was like, "Oh, well, I mean that figures." So either Detroit was lying to me, or Dave, you don't have any execution, and you think it's super hard for no reason.
Well, Shang Tsung is a character almost everybody says is very difficult to play. By the way, not necessarily combos in particular, but just like the overall.
But here's
package.
the disconnect, though. When people say this is very hard to do they mean it's very hard to do in MK12 terms or in fighting game terms in general? Because this is where everything gets all like fuzzy. Because something hard to do in MK12 could be super easy to do in like a different fighting game, and vice versa.
Well, I thought we were evaluating everything by MK standards, whatever. Like, why do other fighting games even matter?
Because MK12 is slow, and it's a problem that you don't see in every single fighting game. But some of them do. Like
problem with you is with this. Like, Roy and I told you what we like, and we compared. We're like, yeah, we want another MK12.
But literally, yes, that is the problem. You guys want another MK12. This is not good for the franchise. Do you understand?
Let me finish. It's good for me. I don't care what's good for you. Like the point is, Roy and I give you examples. We're like, okay, we want this game to play like this. I just mentioned one of your favorite games that you claim it is. Like you almost back away from it.
MK3 is my favorite 2D MK game, by the way, just so everybody knows. I don't know why Dave's putting words in my mouth.
Well, anyway, I asked you a question earlier. How would you like what would you compare MK13 to if you from a Mortal Kombat game or even an NRS game if you want to go a wider.
I don't want them to copy and paste one game and make it just be that. I think they need to take elements that were good in a bunch of different games and combine them in one to make a really good game.
And you didn't ever answer the question. You never did. It's not about I told you I don't like the cameo system. I think you should go but I kind of gave you an idea what I want. What is that game to you? Like there has to be something from a Mortal Kombat game.
We got to start from the basics. The game needs to feel fluid and quick. It cannot feel clunky and slow like MK12. That's the first thing.
Okay, so you wanted to play like Ultimate or MK9?
Here's the thing about Ultimate. The game is like both fast and clunky at the same time. Ultimate is not a game where you're like quickly moving in and out of combat. It's not how the game works. It's got a one button, which is simple. The walking is okay. I'm trying to understand why does Dave keep referring to Ultimate over and over?
Leo, if you say that MK1 is quote unquote clunky and slow, then you are essentially saying that MKX, MK11, and MK9 are also quote unquote clunky and slow.
Well, Roy, here's the thing: every NRS game has become slower. It started with MK9, and MK9 at its game wasn't even like one of the fastest games. It was just like decent speed. Then they made Injustice 1. A little bit slower than MK9. Then they made MKX from Injustice 1 a little bit slower than Injustice 1. Then they made Justice 2 from MKX a little bit slower. Then they made MK11 a little bit slower. Now MK12, we're here in MK12, and it's even slower than MK11. My point is, they're going to keep continuing this trend until we put our foot down and say this needs to stop.
But Rio, it's about how making the animations to be more detailed and more
I understand that, Roy. I understand it's about making animation detail stuff, but I don't want to feel like I'm watching a movie. I want to feel like I'm playing a fighting game.
But dude, it's impossible. It's you're suggesting how making the games to be super snappy, just like the 2D games. It is nowadays. It's impossible. It's not going to happen. And for that, but Dave said it. With me and Dave want MK13 to be MK1 all over again. I just want to say, do I prefer MK1 over all the other games gameplay-wise? Yes, I do. But I do realize that not all mechanics are going to come back from MK1 to MK13. Do I want to be as close as possible to MK1, MK13 to be? Yes, I do. But I do realize that even if it's the case, not all mechanics are going to come back from him. So I'm trying to be look at the history of NRS games on how, with the exception of the Injustice games, we so far from MK9 to MK1, how different each game is. I definitely am not expecting MK13 to be MK1 one for one. I know it's going to be, at least in some capacity, it's going to be different. So I'm not expecting to be exactly one for one.
I don't understand why you're saying it's impossible and trying to make a fast food game. Why?
Because like I said, it is the making the animations detailed. You can't have the animations more detailed, but then have the same speed of a snappy animation like the MK2 or UMK3. It's impossible.
Look, you can do that. You can make a game be fast and have detailed animations. I mean, look at Third Strike. Look at Skullgirls. These games are quick and they have very good animations and details. Okay?
It's different. You're talking about cartoonish fighting games versus again using the realistic models. Of course, it will be impossible.
So what you're saying is we're stuck. We have to play these slow, clunky games because they don't have the ability to make a game with modern graphics that moves quick and fluid. Like, really? I don't buy that.
What about MKX or MK9?
No, it's not. It's not clunky, slow. And two, yes,
well,
if you want to
clunky and slow. It's literally the slowest NRS game. What do you mean? This is not even like an opinion. This is like a fact.
Well, but it's not slow in a negative way.
Roy, here's the problem. Like, I'm gonna name the fastest move in MK12. You do just a down one. Why is there 30 frames of overall animation or more just pressing a down one? For what reason is there so much animation and lag and delay? Like, I don't need to see my character do a cinematic down one. They're doing a down one. And now apply this to the entire game. The strings to normals to jump. Like, the jumping's floaty. Why do we need floaty jump? Why does everything have to be slow?
Because once again, they want to make the game look as realistic as possible. It's not like Street Fighter then when they're trying to make the game cartoony.
I don't understand. Like MK9 and MKX, those are pretty fast-paced games. Like, you can't make the combos.
They're decently fast, but they're not even one of the fastest games. And
yeah, I'm not saying they're. I'm saying in NRS history.
Yeah, you mean NRS terms? Yeah, they're. I'd say MK9 is the quickest, then MKX after that.
Outside Cyrax, like, you really didn't have too long of combos. Like, they were done pretty fast usually.
Oh no, the combos in MK9 and MKX are the same length as those in MK11 and MK1. They are definitely the same. And if you're talking about the length of the animation and the length of the damage, they were the same. In MK11, yeah, the damage output was lower. But if you want to talk about, but when you did get a high damage combo, they were pretty much the same length of time and the same damage as the other games, MK1, MK9, and MKX.
We have to keep in mind that Rio has a completely different standard.
MK11 also had slow. I think what? What was that?
You think MKX is slow?
I don't think MKX is slow. I think it's the second slowest NRS game. Sorry, third after MK9 and Injustice.
Okay, again, the reason I keep mentioning Ultimate because I want an example.
I thought you keep mentioning Ultimate because that's what you want, because you keep bringing it up.
No, because I gave you
Roy and I are not known as a game for very fluid movement, by the way. The game is not like a movement-based game.
Roy and I, we have given you very specific examples. We don't mince words. We just told you.
This is what you guys have some weird arguments. You guys are like, no, the game cannot be cannot be made quick because it cannot be done or whatever. Like, what are these answers?
What's your comparison? What do you want the game to play like? Give us an actual fighting that exists on planet Earth that people have created.
I understand. You guys, like, Dave will ask me a question like, hey, how would you like MK13 to play? And I'm like, yeah, well, let me talk about it. I want the game to be. And then Dave's like, but wait a minute. Give us an example. You can't say how you want it to play. You got to give us a fighting game. Why do I have to give you a fighting game for it to play? I just told you, I don't want it to be a carbon copy of another fighting game. I want it to be different bits and pieces. It could even be pieces of different NRS games that were good that are put into it. Like, how is this hard to understand?
Yeah, no,
So
and Leo, I agree with you on that part. I'm saying I don't also be MK13 to be a copy paste of MK12, MK1. I
well,
don't
it's just
want
Yeah,
that.
I don't want
Rio,
I
like here's the
also
thing, and look, Dave is kind of making it seem this way. That's why it's confusing when Dave is saying stuff. But I don't want MK13 to be a copy paste MK9 or copy paste UMK3, whatever Dave is trying to say. Like that's not
pays with
what my argument
the
is.
generation of the game, the
but
general
Rio,
feel of the game.
I also don't want don't all expect MK13 to be a copy paste of MK1. I also
Nobody does.
agree with you on that part. But what you were
Look,
saying that
Roy,
saying
I'm not expecting it to be a copy paste of MK1. However, in the direction that they're going and what they've shown me in the past like 5-6 NRS games, there's probably a good chance that MK13 will be slower than MK12. You can believe that because this is the direction that we're heading in, and it probably will have Fatal Blow again or whatever. And my point is, like, right now we need to make our voices heard.
wait, slow in terms of speed movement or slow in
In
terms
general,
of
everything, movement,
so
animation, the length of the combos, the how every move has so much animations and lag to it, like doing a string takes forever.
that's been dude, that it's been in all MK games since MK9
Yes,
and the
but
reason
Roy, you're
was
forgetting the biggest point. It keeps getting slower over time. Yes, MK9 hit strings and stuff,
want to make
but
the
these games are
animation
even
more
slower than that
deep.
game.
It's a good thing for the game, Rio. It's a good thing for the
A
game.
good thing for the game that feels slow and clunky? Are you kidding me, Roy? Come on. Like, no. I can't get behind that. I don't want to feel like I'm literally committing to a month of my life when I do a string or a poke or whatever in a modern MK game. It's very annoying. Like that, I don't like the feel of that.
So I'm afraid that you maybe Mortal Kombat games are just not for you anymore, or at least not the current MK games. Because the thing is that you need to make the animations like that because they need to make the animations more realistic and more detailed. There's no way they adding more details for those animations if they keep the pace in the same pace as
Roy, look, the whole
the old
realistic
school
and stuff, it's getting to the point where the
house
animations are
the
becoming too much, man.
days out with Street Fighter and Street Fighter or Guilty Gear. There's no way you're expecting something that is never gonna happen. And as far as the speed movement of the walk speed, it's something that they definitely can change. They can make the game more MK9 like, or
Yes,
maybe
but here's
even
the
MK.
problem. Like making the game just have faster walks or faster run is boring kind of movement because when it comes to walking and running, there's no skill gap behind that. You just tap a button or you're walking in a direction. That's boring. You want movement that's fluid and interactive.
So you actually like the walk speed of MK1 and MK11, right?
I think the
That's
walk
what you're
speed
saying?
is whatever, but the block dashing needs to get like tuned up. It feels clunky.
So, like, on average, like, most people like things to be fast paced, whether it's like shooting games, fighting
Yeah, I
games,
don't
like your average
exactly.
viewer, like so, and if you're trying to get more eyes on the game, by like on average, more people would probably agree they would rather watch something fast paced and slow. Like a lot of people always make fun of Injustice 2 for being like in zones this and super slow and clunky. Or I shouldn't say clunky, but slow paced for sure. And like a lot of people, even though some people didn't play MKX competitively, like there was players outside of the MK scene that I'm like, man, I love watching this game. I'm like, that's awesome. Like, that's they don't play it, but they'll watch it. And I think the games have been getting slower, like historically. Like you literally, if you go in reverse order of when the games were released, like MK1 to MK11, it gets faster. And then obviously, from MK9 to now, it's only gotten slower. And I think it only hinders the gameplay and like the viewership of it.
And the
Like
thing is,
I don't think it really needs to like the strings and normals don't need to be hyper realistic. Like who says they need to be realistic? It's a fighting game. None of
yeah,
it's
I don't
gonna be
understand this
realistic. We're
argument where we have to make
literally
it be realism. Like, imagine your mom doing Havoc's back to 2-4. No, I don't want to imagine that because I don't want it to be realistic. Like, I want the game to feel fluid and quick.
But that's how Mortal Kombat games work. They are always trying to be more realistic compared to Street Fighter. That's how Mortal Kombat games were always well. Ever since they
Roy,
were
I
first
feel you're
created,
confusing graphics with gameplay. Like, you can make a game look realistic and have the best graphics where it looks like you see like realism in the game, but also play quick and fluid.
but the animations also need to be detailed enough. The better the graphics and the more a higher budget those games get, the more they're gonna get more detailed for the animations, and therefore the speed is gonna make. The fact that the animations are not that snappy, that's a part of how those MK games get evolved. That's how it is. So I understand that you don't like it, but unfortunately, it's not going to change. I, for one, not only that I don't have a problem with it, I can appreciate it because I really don't feel like the game is so. In MK1, both in terms of the combos and the speed, the movement speed is perfect balance for me. And as far as the what Frank said a minute ago about the watchable, let's just keep in mind that MK11 was the highest attended at Evo 2019 was the highest attended MK tournament ever. And for both MK11 and MK1, just like for MKX, people keep watching those games, and the tournaments are always getting hyped. But every time I don't get to watch tournaments as much as I used to, but every time I do get to watch, I can always get to see, wow, those are just so fucking hype. MK1 tournaments, and just like how was MKX and MK11 for me. So so movement speed versus hype and watchability, I think it's a huge misconception.
Look,
Well, MKX at its peak, you're talking attendance and stuff, and yeah, that's true. MK11 did have a lot of attendance at Evo, but like if I remember correctly, I think viewership wise on Twitch, not attendance, like participating in the game, I think we peaked at like 15K viewers or something in MKX Evo of 2015, and we don't see numbers like that like we did then. I'd be
We got many more views on it on YouTube. You maybe talk about Twitch probably, but I remember that on YouTube we got when we got way more views on that for top 8s on YouTube that were way higher than 15K for sure. For MKX, MK11, and MK1.
Well, I think there's also the communal, factor, right? Because we had Yomi and MKX that might have, brought up the hype more, and obviously for MK9, there were more like personal rivalries, and people were popping off and acting like fools, and that people
Yeah,
found that
that's definitely one thing that's definitely
Yeah.
missing now. The fact that there are no quote unquote community based stories or rivalries, that's
Yeah.
definitely one thing that is missing. I do
Well, I
agree
think
with that.
I think
Right.
those factors are kind of because of esports becoming more and more professional, though. Like, you
Yeah.
can't like pop off in someone's
Yeah.
face like you could back then, and like, breathing on their face, like, or like unbiased comment, or I'm sorry, biased commentary moments. Like, I think that's more of like a esports being more professional type of.
Well, yeah, it's also related to, like your sponsorship. You don't want to, lose your sponsor because you're, perceived as acting professionally. But I think, Roy, what you're missing, you have to understand that Rio and King Jr., they're also Smash players. And I know Melee, I personally don't care about the game, but like a lot of people praise it one of the best fighting games of all time. I know it's even a question whether this even is a fighting game, but I don't want to get into that. But you have to understand
Really?
that's kind of where they're coming from. What?
Dave, surely you're not that naive to say that statement.
Well, I'm saying
You
what the
think
a lot
Melee's
of
not a fighting game? Like, what does that even
They-
mean?
opinion on it. I'm just because I don't play the game. I'm just saying a lot of people in the FGC don't believe it's one. Now, I don't want to
Who in
get
the
into that.
FGC is saying Melee's not a fighting game?
Wait, this podcast is about Mortal Kombat allegedly. So the point is,
Right, but
they
you're
don't
making
want to
these
say it.
weird claims saying, oh, people are going around saying Melee's not a fighting game. Who?
They don't want to say it, but I mean, let's ask Rio on the spot. Rio, what are your favorite fighting games?
My favorite fighting game of all time
Yeah.
is Smash Melee.
Okay. Would you like Mortal Kombat 13 to play similar to it?
Hell yes, but that would never happen because that would probably take them 50 years to create.
I know, but like the direction, right?
We want to be as close as possible to it, right?
Let's see. Do I want MK13 to have some of the best movement and overall depth and execution and insane combos and skill in a fighting game similar to Melee? Hell yes. Who the hell would not?
Well, there's your
I don't
answer.
think it's. I think me and Rio got pretty different.
Wait,
like
I
environments.
agree, but I definitely can see why now. Definitely why Frank and Rio definitely have this mindset about how MK games work, and I totally get it. And that's they're definitely again there's their own personal experience, completely understandable. But I'm just saying that if you come with this mindset and you expect MK games to change because of what your personal perspective that you have gone through in your fighting game lives, I
Look,
hate to break it to you, but it's not going to
Roy,
change.
here's the thing. Dave is selling you
Sorry.
smoke. Here's the thing, Roy. Dave is selling you smoke. I am in no way, shape, or form thinking that MK13 is going to be any way 1/10 of what Melee is in terms of gameplay and design and fluid and all that stuff. There's no way in hell I think that at all. What I'm saying is when I give my opinion on what I want MK13 to be, I can't even make basic claims and arguments like, hey, I like for the game to be faster, more fluid, this without people like Dave getting all up in arms, being like, what does that mean? Name a fighting game it has to play like name one. It's like these weird arguments Dave has to bring up in these statements that have to be like addressed just for me.
Roy, let me talk. Roy, listen.
Wait, hold on. Let Roy ask me a question, then we'll let you go, Dave. Come on.
I want to ask him a question as well, then he can answer.
So you're saying, Sergio, you're saying that you don't expect the current day Mortal Kombat games to be like Smash Melee or the old school Mortal Kombat games, right? That's what you're saying. So can you please give me an example of a fighting game that quote unquote using combo speed and movement
Roy,
speed that
see,
you feel
here's the thing, Roy. You're saying, can you give me a fighting game now? Roy, I'm not a modern fighting game player. I don't play any of the new fighting games. I don't know if you realize this. I'm not a fan of Tekken 8. I didn't even buy it. Not a fan of Super 6. Didn't even buy it. I bought MK12, unfortunately, to try it because I was hyped for it, but didn't end up liking it. So I stopped playing it after the first couple months. My point is, like, this whole name a modern fighting game, I'm not really a fan of any of them.
He said modern, by the way. Name any fighting game. And by the way, how are we being weird by asking you compare a fighting game to something else, or even that doesn't have to be other like Tekken or just
because it's just odd to be like, okay, you have to compare a game when I'm explaining you how I would like MK13 to play, like reasons. Like I want the combos to be quicker, I want the game to feel more fluid, I want the game to have more depth, I want them to look at certain mechanics carefully, I want them to bring back strength. How are these not good answers? I don't understand. Like, how's this not good enough? I have to literally compare a fighting game, like. And the thing is, like,
I didn't say they were bad answers. I'm just saying if you asked,
but apparently they're not good enough. Like what?
No, like just give the audience like a sense of how you want the game to play, not a carbon copy.
Like, what do you want me to do? Start listing frame data and tell them the ground up how the game's going to play?
No,
like, what in the world?
That's the opposite of what I want. If you ask me, how do you want MK13 to play? I'm like, yeah, I want it to play.
I just told you for the 50th time, I want to be a fluid, fast-paced game with great movement, great execution. I want the game to be full of depth. What do you mean, like what? Do you not know what those words mean?
Like, you have that. You just expecting this weird combination of speed that I don't know which on which one I base it on, because you use it because you say yourself that you don't have any examples to bring it on. You don't want it to be like Melee. You don't be like the old school
Roy,
games.
it cannot be like Melee because they would have to invest so much time for it to even be anything like Melee. At that point, like obviously I'm also realistic here. But I don't understand how saying I want the MK13 to be quicker.
Rio, I'm saying this to you in the most realistic way possible. But you are thinking that MK games can be, they're not.
Okay, so basically what I'm hearing is you guys are saying, Rio, pack your bags. The games are going to continue to be slow, clunky. They're not going to change. It's here to stay like this, and there's nothing to look forward to in the future. Is this correct? That's a terrible way to look at that is a terrible way to look at the future of Mortal Kombat, and to think that all these patches and things that they're learning and information they're gathering over the community and games is going to waste like that. That to me is insane.
Rio, I hate to break into you, but unfortunately, yes, that's what I'm telling you. And not only that, I'll go even further than this. Even when we go back to the single player stuff of fighting games. After what Street Fighter 6 and Tekken 8 have done, I have realized in no way, shape, or form I should ever focus on fighting games from either Capcom or Bandai Namco. iPhone now in this game, in this stage of my life as a gamer in general, not just a fighting game player, a gamer in general, I cannot, in this stage of my age of my life, cannot for the life of me purchase a fighting game unless it is Mortal Kombat. So just like I gave up on Street Fighter and Tekken, I think that maybe for you, you now came to the stage of your life that maybe Mortal Kombat games, as they are right now, that maybe are just not for you anymore.
Roy, do you know
think
how
that's what
bad
it
this
is.
is to say the people that are enjoying the current NRS games, to be like, hey guys, the future Mortal Kombat, there's no reason to look forward to MK13, MK14, whatever the next project is, because they're just going to keep getting slower and staying the same with Fatal Blows, this and that. You guys just need to like play other stuff. This is bad. I thought we as a community and people that are fans of the game are supposed to get feedback. Now, look, I don't want to bring this to a different game that has nothing to do with fighting games, but let's look at Resident Evil. Resident Evil went through almost the same thing that I guess Mortal Kombat did. They went through phases where they were making games like RE5, RE6, and the games were doing not too great. Community wasn't crazy about them.
I'm not familiar enough with Resident Evil series, so I can't really comment on that.
My point is, Capcom started after a while when things started actually hitting the fan, and they were like, "Oh shit, this is starting to affect our sales, this and that. People aren't happy. They're starting to play other games. This is what we're going to do for RE7. We're going to try to take their feedback and try to make something good." So what did they do? They brought Resident Evil back to the roots and made it more horror and all that. Now, obviously, it wasn't like classic Resident Evil, but my point is, what MK needs to do now is with all of this, and this has been a collective thing that's been building all this. All this outcry didn't just happen with MK12, right? This isn't the game. It's been slowly building up. Now, the MK12 is
did not quote unquote hit fan because, like I said at the beginning of
look, you're not understanding.
Show,
this is not really about only what I want. My opinion is that MK Mortal Kombat can be so much bigger than it is. They don't realize the potential behind the series. All they have to do, and I'm not saying this is easy, because again, you're saying it's easier said than done. I'm not saying that, but they have to really put effort into the next game, design it from the ground up with purpose, make it Mortal Kombat, make it quick, and try to do effort. They got to stop doing what they've been doing for now over 10 years. The whole custom, pick your choose, pick your ration, pick your customs, varied cameos. That needs to be axed. Stop that. If they want to keep that, they can, but make it a separate mode for the casuals and people that want to play that. But for the main game, they have to go back to the drawing board and make sure the next game is really good, because we cannot keep having MK come out like this.
Okay, so Rio, I hate to break into you, but it's not going to happen. MK, as much as you probably don't want to believe it, MK is in an excellent place right now. Both in how many people keep playing MK1 on a daily basis, as well as keep buying Mortal Kombat 1. There's no way that NRS and WB are going to change their
I thought you were a
approach.
huge fan of Mortal Kombat and you want what's best for the game. You want it to grow and be bigger. How could you be against them being... Don't you want them to do the biggest fighting game out? Not just casually, but competitive-wise too, in all assets?
The biggest fighting game out. That's the thing. You think they are not the biggest fighting game, no, but just because they don't have certain philosophies that you think they should be there. But the thing is that they do. They do are the biggest fighting game right now, both in terms of how many.
But they could be 100 times better. I understand they're the king of casuals regarding Street Fighter and Tekken, but what I'm talking about is they could be so much better. They could literally be, if they wanted to, the best competitive game on top of that. So they could dominate both worlds, both sides of the coin. Why wouldn't you want that?
Oh yeah, that part I'm glad that you brought it up, Rio, because like I said for an entire show, whole negativity thing about that. Yes. Some stuff should have been addressed and should have been fixed, yes. But like I said early in the beginning of the show, there's so much unnecessary negativity and clear bias.
But this is not negativity. Okay, Roy, look, here's the thing. With terms of this being negative and stuff, I don't go around making videos going like, here's why MK12 is bad, or here's why this game sucks, here's why you guys should never play. I'm not doing that. I'm not one of those players that does that. The whole point of this podcast is first to the whole point of this podcast. Because Roy, the whole point of this podcast and the whole point of it that it's been ever since we decided to do this during way back in 2012 is we give our honest opinions and truth on the game. I'm not here telling people, hey, do not play the game. It's bad. Don't buy it. It's shit. It's not what I'm saying. I literally even said multiple times, I think MK12 is good in its own ways.
Are you telling me you have done this podcast show since 2012 and you you always, both you and Tom and Dave and whatever and whoever other guest you had on the show, you tell me that for 13 years you have done this for across the many games that NRS and WB have done, and you have not thought for even one solitary second that maybe it's time for you to move on from Mortal Kombat? Only for even 1 second? Maybe
Roy,
it's not
this
the
makes
game style, maybe it's you.
Roy, this makes literally no sense. You're saying, hey, this game is bad, you don't like it, don't play the next game because it's going to be the same. How the hell is that supposed to...
It's not the game. It's not that the games are bad necessarily. It's that you have a different philosophy on what they do. Because I may disagree with what Capcom and Bandai Namco do, but I know
Roy,
that
Roy, hold on, settle down. Look, what is the big deal if MK13 is a different game and they try something, whatever we're saying? You can still always go back to MK12, MK11, MKX. These games all have rollback GGPO, so what is the problem?
No, what I'm saying is that you expect from them to do stuff that are clearly not gonna change. And if you've been here doing the
Okay,
show
well, if
since
me sitting here,
2012,
saying, hey man, I'd like the game to be quicker, I like the game to, have anti-airs, I like the game to not have terrible things like fatal blows, if that's asking too much and that's doing the impossible, then I don't know what to tell you, man. That goes to show me that it seems like you have no faith in NRS for them to do something different and amazing.
No. First
You're
of all,
literally telling me that nothing's going to change and the games are going to keep being subpar. Like, what the hell?
Okay. First of all, I don't need to have faith in NRS and WB because I always am super amazed in everything that they have done, and so I don't have low expectations or embarrassing low expectations. I'm already amazed in what NRS and WB have done with all of their games, including MK1. You, like I said earlier, you have expectations to be very specific direction that are not necessarily for making the game better, but on taking the game into a very specific direction. You think it's making the game better, but it's not. It's taking the game into a different direction, which is maybe gonna make the game better for you, but not for necessarily other people. And because you keep
well, Roy, if you don't understand, that's why when I say things,
for so many
Roy,
years,
I make sure when I say, hey man, if you guys get rid of Fatal Blow or cameos or whatever, I also say I don't mind that stuff being in a different game mode because we all know the MK games these days need some more game modes. So if they want to have a cameo mode in MK13 or a mode with fatal blows and customs or crazy stuff, then yes, they can all do that. I'm not against that. I'm not against them having more stuff for the catalog. What I'm saying is I'm talking about the competitive, serious side of the game where people are going to be traveling to go to tournaments to play. The game at that point should be taken pretty seriously. It should be a lot about skill. It should feel really good to play. It should not be the opposite of any of this in any way, shape, or form.
Okay, and I got news flash for you, Rio. It's not that part is not going to change either. I cannot see because we're talking about unlocking skins and gearing pieces in invasions and stuff. It's ever since they brought the variation system in MKX. Excuse me. It's been very clear to me more and more ever since MKX that now the customization, the real customization in NRS games is not, and especially Mortal Kombat compared to Injustice 2, is not the cosmetic part, but it's the gameplay part. With how the variation system works in both MKX and MK11, and how the cameo system works in MK1, it's clearly now that NRS want to have gameplay based customization in their games. So the competitive aspect is always going to be around you being able to customize your own play style. And considering how successful MK1, MKX, and MK11 were, it's not going to change. They are not going to make it just to exclusive to single player mode. They are going to keep this way. If you expect it to be like completely no customization for gameplay like MK9 used to be, it's not going to happen, dude. It's not going to happen.
Well, let me hit you with this fatal blow real quick. Meterless, by the way. For MK13, I will say this: if they make it so there's no customization, they can have this off in separate modes if they want to have that. Sure, do that for the casuals. But if they make the main competitive mode where they make it where every character is their own character and they make characters actually have really unique archetypes, it's a lot of depth, a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of thought put into these characters, and they really hit it off the rails. I think that will end up being the most successful game they put out tournament-wise than any of these previous games. You want to know why? For the simple fact that the worst idea that NRS has ever done has stemmed from MKX variation system, and they have kept pieces of that ever since. They need to get rid of that and try a game, try a new one to see what they would do and how good it would be. Because I think literally off the bat, if they do things like make characters without all these gimmicks and stuff, which again, they don't have to remove entirely, keep it in separate modes for the casual, they keep that all in and they actually put effort into the gameplay, make characters play very differently with unique archetypes and all this stuff, then I'm telling you, right off that would give so much room to improve for the game. As long as they make it fluid, quick, good anti-airs, movement, depth, all this, it will be a very good game, much better than what we've been playing recently.
So MKX, MK11, and MK1 all had more participants and both, as well as more views on both Twitch and YouTube compared to MK9. But the one game from
Roy, you want to know why they have more views and more Twitch and all this? Not because they're the better, superior, insanely amazing game. Because MK9 came out in the past, in 2011. Video games back then weren't as big as they are now. They were to make MK9 these days with 1 million patches, like these new games that are supposedly so amazing and good. But however, what they don't tell you is that they need 100 patches to become good because they're actually not as good as you think. The problem is these new games, video games now are way bigger than they ever used to be. So when you're like, but the games now have more viewers and tournament numbers and Twitch, yeah. Well, obviously, games now are way bigger than they were in 2011. It's not to say that these games are way superior in every way than the older games. Some of these new games don't even have basic functions that old games like MK9 had, like literally good anti-airs or solid movement. Like they're missing the basic components.
MK1 definitely has amazing movement because as someone that played both MK9 and MK1, I don't
know if you're trolling me at this point, but you just say MK12 has amazing movement because
dude, I'm telling you this with every bit of honesty. They do have that. And now look, we are talking about for like 3 hours now, and it's after 1 p.m. 1 a.m. in where I live. So I'm just so tired right now. I'm sorry.
Well, I'll say this. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for this podcast to extend that long. I just literally just looked at it now, and you're right. It's went way overdue. This kind of just happens when we get heated into engagements. I think this was a good conversation. And like I said, you have some good points. I just feel like we tend to disagree on what we feel the future of NRS could do or what their potential could be in their next games. That's all.
Yeah, well, I agree that it's overdue. Roy's the guest. We'll give you the last word. I know you're tired, but you're the guest. You deserve the last word. I'm sure Franco has plenty of stuff to say. I know, so do I, and I could drive for another hour. But Roy, you're the guest. Last word, then we'll have Rio sign us out.
Okay, so my last few points I want to bring up is that, like I said, I know that some people think I'm only trolling, or maybe some people are going to be in the comment section of this episode of the show. They probably going to say that I am toxic positive about MK1, and trust me, I even got a couple of people saying that to me, like Cherry Vogue even one called me toxic positive once. I'm just gonna do it out there, but I'm telling you guys that in every bit of honesty, as a long-time Mortal Kombat fan, I enjoy MK1 so much, especially when it comes to the single-player content and the gameplay. I love MK1 so much. As somebody that love the game, my favorite Mortal Kombat games from every generation is that MK2 for the arcade era, MK Armageddon for the 3D era, MKX for the second timeline era, and now for MK1, I can easily put it up there as the Elite Four if we're using Pokemon names, Pokemon dictionary, putting the Elite Four of Mortal Kombat games for me. This is how much I like MK1. And I know that you guys have different philosophies than me. I just feel like that I understand the philosophy of NRS and WB more than other people. And I'm not trying to say this in a in a condescending way. And if I accidentally do, I'm sorry. I really don't mean to. I just feel like that I understand the philosophy of NRS and WB more than other guys. And I genuinely think that for their sake of those same people, I really think that they have been upset with NRS and WB games for this long. Like you guys were since 2012 when we started the show. And it is also for Tom Brady as well. I genuinely think that you guys need to think really hard if you want to continue play MK games. Not because again, not in a condescending way or that. I just really think that for your sake, if you need to maybe because as someone that play Mortal Kombat, I genuinely enjoy them so much. So I'm just saying that maybe if you guys maybe did what was best for you, and you will allow the players that truly enjoy Mortal Kombat games to want to speak more. Maybe the negativity around Mortal Kombat games will not be as high, and there will be more room for positivity. And maybe that way, because we have more room for positivity, maybe that way more players will come for events and tournaments, and maybe that way NRS and WWE can see, oh, now the community is going because it's not just us. We need to put all of those features in those games while we see the community actually truly they want to grow. They want themselves to grow, not just the games to go. They want themselves to grow. Now, now we can definitely put more money in the prize pools and more competitive oriented features like maybe online practice and all of that stuff, and bring back public lobbies. So I just saying that maybe everybody just need to maybe take a step back and maybe think a little bit. I'm just saying that's all I'm gonna say.
I
Well,
appreciate your
thanks.
passion, Roy.
Yeah,
I think,
yeah, I do as well.
yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with you enjoying the game and liking it. I feel like we have a disconnect on certain aspects. Like you would never catch me going around saying, "Hey guys, MK9 is balanced." I get that vibe a little bit from you when you say things like, the movement's good in MK12, stuff like that. But I mean, look, we're not here to rehash and argue because then we'll be here for another hour. But go ahead, Dave.
I was just gonna say, you know, people should play whatever they like. We all have different preferences, and again, I disagree with at least 50% what Royce is saying. The other 50 I agree with. But again, I think we're kind of reaching the end. Rio, sign us out, please.
Well, wait, hold on. Let Franco talk his piece and then we'll log off.
Yeah, I was just say, I think me and Rio have pretty different like aspects of what we want to see in a game too. But like, just a very, very quick like list of things I would want to see in the next game. Like, I want like a similar jump slash anti-air meta that was in MK9 to be in the future game. I want like a similar Oki system from MKX going into the next game. There's no wake up buttons in that game almost ever. I want flawless block from MK1 and the lack of low profiling normals like we had in the previous games. That was a massive issue, especially like female hurt boxes being smaller. That kind of consistency from MK1 from the hurt boxes and the lack of low profiling is amazing. Super big quality of life change. I think doesn't get talked about enough. I'd like to see air combat back. I would like to see the pace of MK9 and X as far as like speed of frames of normals and strings. I don't really want a run button, but dash blocks from MK9 I would like to see, and MK9's archetypes and Injustice 1's archetypes. So like those are like just off the bat like a few features that I can pick apart from every game that I would like to see going forward for MK13. And I really hope that for the casual aspect that they just start fresh with the story, stop with the multiverse, go back to like most of what the Midway era story was about. John Tobias's story aspects were really well, and there's still some things that weren't fleshed out with it, and I think it could have had been like taken a lot further before we got into the NRS like story stuff with the multiverse and these timelines and all these resets. Like, so Those are just like some right off the bat things I'll say about the competitive and casual stuff.
Well said. Any other closing statements by anybody?
I do have, and one more point about what Frank said about the story, just real quick.
Yep.
That the story with the multiverse, as someone that enjoyed the story mode, I can also say that the story mode is definitely the best story mode that NRS has done, not just for Mortal Kombat, but for every fighting game of any fighting game IP. And I'm not gonna go into detail now because we've had these super long show. Maybe I can talk about it maybe later time if you want to. But I'm just saying that this is the best story mode that NRS and WB has ever done. I'm just gonna leave it there.
All right, Dave, would you like to say anything before we end?
I'm good. Sign us out, please.
All right, well, let me just say this. Roy, like I said, I appreciate your passion, and there's no hard feelings. Like, we're just here to have a debate and, really talk about how we feel about games. The way you feel about, like, MK12 is I've been in those shoes where people have said, like, a lot of the older games aren't worth playing, or MK9 is terrible, it's bad, so I understand where you're coming from. From my perspective is I just would love to see NRS, just surprise all of us if they can and put something out there that's really good, because I know they can do it. I mean, like I said, they don't even have to take ideas from other games. They could just look at some of the past that they've done in Mortal Kombat games, because they've done more than people think in terms of cool designs and stuff. With that said, this was episode 39. Thank you so much, Roy, for being on. Thank you as well to...
Yeah, thank you. Regardless of what we all think and say, I do appreciate you so much for letting me be here and speak my mind. So thank you all very, very much.
Yep, no problem. And thank you also to Burrito Voorhees for coming on, and Dave. If you guys have any questions or comments, we're kind of curious to see what your opinions are regarding this episode. Do you agree with some of us? Do you feel more of, what you're looking forward to the next game? We want to hear it. And thank you guys again for listening to episode 39. See you guys in the next episode.